Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Candy Ojai County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, August 18th, 2026. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank everyone for being here and for those who are following us online on YouTube. And we have a pretty informational agenda today, but we have a little bit of business to begin to conduct first. I want to request approval of the agenda with the following addition. You see before you a note that we have we need to approve the removal of a couple of legacy employees, shall we say, on a specific account and appoint the auditor, treasurer, and CFO to the as authorized signers. So I'd like to add that to the consent agenda. Is there any objection? Hearing none, then I would request approval of today's agenda with that addition.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. We will then request approval of the consent agenda, which today consists of that matter that we just approved. Approval of the August 4th, 2026 County Board legal minutes, approval of the auditor's warrants and claims, approval of human services warrants and claims, and approval of the August 4th, 2026 closed session minutes. Are there any items that any commissioners wish to pull from the consent agenda? If not, then I'd request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Also move.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion, a second to approve the consent agenda. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Here today we have some folks from New Carbon, been working with our Environmental Services Department, and Justin Gutnick, co-founder and head of solutions, is here to present. And please approach the podium, introduce yourself, and good morning.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
And if it's the both of you, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just say a couple words. I'm Brian Lammers. I'm a co-founder and partner as well. I live in Minneapolis. We're really grateful for the opportunity to talk with you today. We're excited about the project. Justin's going to talk more about the LNG project or the RNG project we're working on. New Carbon is a Midwest-based infrastructure company. We were formed expressly for opportunities like the one we're talking to you about today. The reason for our company's existence is to help municipal and ag and industrial companies focus on their core mission, and we provide clean energy and power solutions that generate additional revenue streams and help our customers save money. And we're really excited about the Candy Ojai County landfill RNG project. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Justin's going to talk more about the project, and we're happy to answer questions as we go. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So back in July 2025, we executed a term sheet to explore the feasibility of a renewable natural gas project.
Mr. Chair, did he say his name?
Oh, sorry, Justin Gutnick.
Okay, just for the record, so, thank you.
And so to step back, RNG, it's collecting raw biogas that's being created from the decomposition of waste, cleaning it up, removing all the impurities, and putting it back on the pipeline for third-party sale. So during the feasibility, we performed due diligence, engineering, and financial evaluation, and we confirmed the revenue potential of the project and also the logistics. So how do we put it back on the pipeline with CenterPoint for third-party sale? And what we confirmed is that the project is commercially viable. It helps support state of Minnesota's greenhouse gas reduction goals. And so what we are here now to talk to you about is a public-private partnership and transferring all of that risk from development, construction, operations, and market risk to New Carbon. So what are the county benefits of this project? Well, there's no county capital contribution or debt repayment option. Maintain landfill operations and ownership. It provides New Carbon project site access. It receives royalty revenues from the project. And also the county maintains oversight of the project through all the agreements that we enter into. New Carbon's responsibilities is to actually invest the capital, which is estimated to be about $23 million. We design, permit, construct, own, and operate the project, maintain the gas collection system. We assume all market operational risk associated to the project. And then we also provide insurance, indemnification, and even decommissioning financial assurance for the project for end of life. All right. And then on the revenue, what we're offering the county is really participation in the project success. So the county generates revenue as a, will generate a royalty as a percentage of revenue tied to the production. So the more that the facility produces, which it will over time as the landfill grows, the county generates more revenues. Near term, we'll be focusing on selling the renewable natural gas and the clean transportation fuels, so compressed natural gas systems. And then we will be ultimately selling it to corporate offtake agreements and potential utilities. So CenterPoint and Xcel in the state of Minnesota are looking to procure renewable natural gas to decarbonize the pipeline system. Based on the profile over 25 years, on your landfill's growth projections and the production, we're estimating about $4 million over 25 years of royalty revenue. All right. So our proposed agreement has some key protections for the county for financial and operational purposes. So the first is project investment. So New Carbon bears all the cost for all the capital. We assume all operations and maintenance of the landfill gas collection and flare system. The county is compensated through a production-based royalty, and we assume any type of market risk. We are selling a commodity. We have a construction milestone. So once we enter an agreement, New Carbon needs to achieve commercial operations within 42 months, subject to limited extensions. So the county can terminate our agreement if the development milestones are not achieved. There is performance requirements. So our facility must meet a minimum uptime and gas conversion standards during commercial operations. If we're not achieving these performance requirements, there will be liquidated damages paid to the county. And then we will be interested in discussing pursuing a Minnesota industrial revenue bond financing, which is available for these type of facilities in the state. And any financing structure will have to be reviewed by the county for approval. And then our agreement has some key legal, environmental, and end-of-term protections. So we are responsible for all project permits, system upgrades, and regulatory compliance. So the county is protected from any project-specific compliance costs. New Carbon must maintain liability, environmental professional compensation insurance. The county will be named as an additional insured. So that gives you the contractual protection for project-related claims. And then we also, New Carbon needs to post financial insurance, bond or letter of credit, which will increase over the time for site restoration. County has audit rights. I mean, we're getting a royalty, so you need to see how much gas we're producing and also how much revenue we're creating so we could properly compensate you. And then at the end of the term of agreement, we could either remove the facilities or transfer certain landfill gas infrastructure back to the county. So typically the flare and the gas collection system is maintained at the county. All right, so from the project due diligence perspective, the last 12 months, we've analyzed a few things. The first is the landfill gas resource. So the nice thing about your landfill is you have a leachate recirculation system. And so, typically when you do an RNG project, you're looking at pretty large facilities. But because you have the leachate recirculation system, that really supports earlier methane production as if a system did not include that system and have that system in place. So that really enhanced the revenue potential of the size of your facility. The second is to find the right solution to do the upgrading. And so we're looking at pressure swing absorption technology. It's commonly deployed in many of the large waste management landfills. We found a system that's appropriate for the size of this county. And so effectively, this system is doing all the pre-treatment, removing all the impurities to meet CenterPoint's pipeline specifications. And then lastly, we did work with CenterPoint to confirm that we could interconnect and ultimately sell the RNG. And so we would be investing into a 14-mile lateral from the Kaneohe County landfill all the way to Wilmar. All right, and then the financing structure, we've been analyzing a way to effectively receive an industrial revenue bond from the state of Minnesota, which is really a primary tool for pollution control facilities and economic development in the state. And so the nice thing about the IRB program is that the county only acts as a conduit issuer. So the repayment is actually the project revenues of the facility that will intend to do the RNG. And there is no tax pledge, no debt repayment obligation at the county level. The benefit for us is we're able to get a lower cost of capital. We're able to amortize the financing over approximately 20 years. And this also improves the project viability. Up to 2024, there used to be a federal investment tax credit for projects of this kind, and that's no longer around after the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So this helps offset some of that benefit. So in conclusion, we've done the due diligence. The project's economically viable, and we're very excited about the opportunity to potentially collaborate. And we would love to proceed forward in negotiations of a landfill gas purchase lease agreement.
All right, thank you for your presentation. Any questions from the board in regards to this? Commissioner Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After going through all this, are there any downsides to this whole thing for the county going forward? And it looks like you really go out quite a few years. Does this fit in with our plan? And that's kind of more a question of you going forward for our landfill expansion.
Ryan Batten, Candioi County Landfill Superintendent. As far as the question about how it integrates into the landfill's future as a whole, there's quite a bit of synergy there. We're going to be required to implement some sort of active gas management system at some point in the very near future anyway. This helps offset the cost to the county for that project. That's kind of the big shining benefit of it, in my opinion, is, you know, the royalties are nice, but that's secondary to just being able to eliminate the cost of development of that active gas management system. With the expansion of the facility footprint that we're currently looking into, with some permit requirements for leachate recirculation that we're going to be bound by when we renew our permit here next year, likely within the next 1 to 2 years, we'll be required to develop one of these systems. And if it can be at, you know, with New Carbon's assistance instead of wholly at our cost, that's gonna be a big benefit to us. So it fits really well. The timing is really advantageous for us. Downsides, I really don't see anything. It seems like a pretty good opportunity for us. And we've been kind of tossing this around even before, like about a year before we came to the board last July with this. We'd been kind of tossing it around and mulling it over, and we've been in contact with New Carbon since 2024, I think. So it took a while. We had to think about it quite a bit, make sure it fit for what the future of the landfill looks like. But I think we're at a pretty good point where it integrates well into our future planning.
May I just follow up with a
Yes.
question? And would this fit in, we got some maybe other issues too with the landfill we look at mitigating. That can be an issue with this setup?
There really shouldn't be any interactions there. This is taking something that currently, you know, the landfill gas that's generated, we're currently passively emitting it into the environment. We're able to do that. We're not under any sort of air quality requirements at the moment. That's coming in the future, like I talked about. But it's kind of a completely separate issue from the groundwater contamination plume that we're dealing with, other than, you know, potentially the revenue that we receive from this project, and royalties could help offset some of those ongoing monitoring and mitigation costs for the groundwater plume.
May I follow up? So where this is set up then, if we have to go in and clean that all up or whatever we have to do, that wouldn't impact this project at all?
That is correct. Yeah, that should be a completely separate thing.
Okay, thank you. And it's, one follow-up, if I may. Sure. It sounds like you're really behind this and highly recommend this.
Yeah, you know, I was pretty skeptical at first because generally facilities of our size, these RNG projects just don't fit. It just doesn't make sense for facilities that are the size of ours. We're kind of in that middle ground where, yeah. But after spending a couple of years looking through it and seeing what the future is going to hold for us, it does really seem to make sense at this time. So I'm 100% behind it.
Thank you. Commissioner Imdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have more than one question. Should I keep going, or do you want to go back?
Yes, you preemptively may do so.
All right. So one of the questions that I have here is, and I kind of, they don't necessarily flow from one to the other, but, and this is probably a better question for our county engineer, but you're talking about greenhouse gas credits, right?
Environmental attributes.
So where I'm going with that is, can we use them as offsets for road building? Because with the new law that was put into place, that's about to be, if it isn't already in place, when we expand a road, we have to mitigate the greenhouse gas emissions because of the additional traffic. So that would be an additional benefit if these credits could be used to offset the challenges we have with transportation, road building.
Yeah, so environmental attributes, where they're monetized is if, at a dispensary. So where it could help is if the county was pursuing compressed natural gas. And then this could be really a fuel for your fleet. And then you could receive those credits and also monetize it through the EPA program.
Yeah. And again, it's probably an unfair question for you, but something to look at. The return to the county, is that based on an estimate? And I imagine you've done tests out there to see the volume of gas that will be captured out there. If you don't reach the volume, so are the returns to the county based on how much you capture?
Correct. So the county's receiving revenue is percentage of total revenue. So there's really two components. There's the quantity, so how much RNG we're able to capture and produce, which also is dependent on future growth at landfill. So we took some estimates and some scenario ranges. And then the other component is the price of how we're able to sell the renewable natural gas. What's good about the state of Minnesota is that it has a very supportive regulatory regime. Most, facilities, let's say in Iowa, Nebraska, Illinois, where I live, we just don't have the clean greenhouse gas emission targets, particularly at the gas utility level. So the nice thing about Minnesota is that CenterPoint and Xcel, your gas utilities, will be going out to market to procure this type of commodity, renewable natural gas, and that helps underpin the price for revenue surety.
And is it possible that there won't be enough production to even turn a profit, thus no financial benefits to the county? I understand Mr. Batten's underlying benefit of not having to mitigate this ourselves in the future, but are you confident in the volume that you think we'll capture here?
Yes, we are using more of a downside scenario case, given the leachate circulation. So in our pro forma, we are more conservative than what I would say the engineering studies would say.
And is the purification happening at the landfill or once it gets to CenterPoint?
Yeah, so we're gonna have 1.5, 2 acres, kind of on the southern end of the landfill, so we're gonna have a collecting a line going in there, and then that's where equipment will be cleaned, remove the impurities.
So it begs a question for me, because I think a local gas company has got pipeline right across the highway at the turkey barns there, and I imagine you've explored the possibility with Dooley's.
Yeah, so we did talk to a variety of pipeline companies, and it also comes down to the size of the pipe across the property and the pressure flow.
Yeah.
And so when we reached out to Xcel and CenterPoint, CenterPoint determined the appropriate design for the volume that we will produce.
Okay. And my last question, thank you for your patience. I don't fully understand the process, how the physical process of how that works, but what happens if we have damage to liners and infrastructure that currently exists in the landfill?
Yeah, so that happens. So that's part of our operation and maintenance budget. So we work with Ryan and his team to make sure that the vertical and horizontal wells are properly maintained. To your point, we want you to continue to fill the landfill. So that's part of our O&M budget.
And if damage, and maybe I'm getting too far in the weeds here, if you would damage a liner, which can be fairly deep in the solid waste, and it doesn't include demo, does it, Ryan? Just solid waste?
Just the MSW, yes.
Yep. Would that have to be excavated to fix then? And is that gonna be covered by the insurance or by indemnification?
Correct. So we are indemnifying you of all liabilities, and we'll have, the necessary insurance. And so if you think about it, we're really putting the vertical wells at the closed portion. And then we'll line horizontal wells as Ryan fills up the cells, every 20 feet. And then we'll cap it when he caps it. So really, any of the, damage might occur if, trucks are moving around the facility.
So I thought it was my last question. So this is not going into existing cells, it's going into new and future cells?
Both. So we start at the existing closed cells, and then we ultimately build the infrastructure in place for the new cells that are currently being filled and eventually closed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dale Anderson.
I guess I have probably two questions. So where does the impurities go? Are they flared off, or how are you handling that side of it?
Yep, so we have a membrane system that captures it, and then it gets disposed. And then we also work with Ryan Turner, would also go back to the landfill.
So the other question I have is on your chart, it shows everything kind of dropping off at 2050. Is there a big reason why that drops off there? Is that kind of your expectancy or?
Yeah, so if you think about it, once you have organic waste and starts decomposing, then it produces a lot of gas, but there's a degradation curve. So what happens is that there's a point in time where your landfill reaches its peak capacity and ultimately closes. And so we're growing all the way to that point and maybe a little bit afterwards, and then we start decomposing and our revenues go down. Sure.
Okay.
To further address that, Commissioner Anderson, the projections were based on the current site footprint. We're actually working to expand that considerably too. So, you know, that's all just tentative, kind of worst case scenario like Justin was talking about for planning purposes.
Okay. Nope, that's great. Thank you.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
Thank you. I just have two questions. I was just wondering, will it interfere with like our daily operations, either when you're under construction or after it's in place?
I don't believe so. Any wells that are, or any collectors that are installed will be through final cover areas. So, you know, it's stuff that we mow around, but we already have collection, our vents that we mow around and infrastructure that we mow around. So it'll be fairly similar there. Some of the install stuff we'd have to just work on the construction phasing so we make sure it doesn't interfere with anything that we're trying to do. But that's all just gonna be part of the ongoing operations from year to year.
Okay. And then you're talking about a pipeline. How big will that be approximately, or do you know the diameter or not?
I'll get back to you on the diameter, but it is 14 miles.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, it really sounds like a win-win situation. It's good for the environment, and that is a big deal. And also, it produces revenue, and it's good for Candiway County taxpayers, it sounds like it would be in the long run as well. I think when you were here last time, didn't you mention you're in some other places doing similar in Minnesota? Or are we the only?
So we are working the feasibility of a food waste opportunity, and you know, we're looking at animal waste facilities in Minnesota. But we, from a landfill perspective, we have a project down in Hastings, Nebraska, just a municipal project.
All right, I imagine that you'd be reticent to put $23 million into this project if you thought it was marginal.
Yeah, that is correct. We feel, you know, pretty strongly about the financials.
Okay, and you know, the thought just comes to me. It's new carbon today, but companies go through different stages, and sometimes they're acquired, things like that. What guarantees do we have that, you know, this is going to, you know, remain the project operationally for this period of time? I assume that there are some contractual guarantees that.
Correct. So there's transfer protections, contractual guarantees. You know, worst case scenario, particularly in the biogas upgrade, that's where we have the financial insurance. And then from an operations perspective, that's where we have performance, you know, guarantees that protect you. So whether it's new carbon or something happens in the future, they also have to step into the same performance requirements.
I'm just thinking if there were ever to be an acquisition by a company that does not actually support projects like this, renewable energy, that's potentially not a good thing.
Yeah. Brian, do you have any comments?
Well, I would just say a couple things. Brian Lammers again. The financing of the project is going to be underpinned by long-term contracts.
Yeah.
So there's financial assurance there, and then any obligations under the agreement transfer to a successor. So irrespective of whatever strategy or who that is, if they step in as the operator, they're going to abide by the contract, and the contract spells that out.
Commissioner Imdeck.
Thank you. Two unrelated questions, one related to what Commissioner Gardner just talked about, when we do a solar conditional use permit, we require a bond for the decommissioning down the road. Is that going to be part of the plan here? Okay. And then, can you talk a little bit about, I think you mentioned the fact that we have the leachate buster out there made a difference in whether or not this is a viable project for you. Can you talk a little bit about that and why?
Yeah, so one easy way to say is the drier the environment is, the less production. So we looked at, for example, a landfill in western Colorado, not much, precipitation. So big landfill, but the production is actually very low. Because of the leachates constantly recirculating and keeping the landfill pretty wet, actually in the facility, that allows a faster decomposition of there.
You mean the physical spreading of the leachate back on the surface of the,
Yeah, so view it as really time value money. A certain amount of waste produces a certain amount of RNG over time. But because of the leachate recirculation system, we're getting that total aggregate production faster. And so that is what's helping enable the project. Because as opposed to a slow ramp up of RNG production, which is hard to recover a large capital investment, the production's actually coming in a lot higher early on, and then has less of a ramp up.
Commissioner Berg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to have the question is, why did you pick Candioi County to do this? But it sounds like leachate, that the fact we had that system set up here influenced that decision a lot.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, but also say, one of the reasons why Brian and I created New Carbon is we recognize an underserved market. And most projects, renewable projects are focusing on these large privately owned facilities, waste management, Republic Services. And there's a lot of municipalities that have great projects, but it may not have the capital to deploy to actually enable great projects. And so that's one of the reasons why we started New Carbon is this is the type of customer, this is the type of project that we like to execute on. There's a lot more value. You want to go to work every day and feel happy about what you're accomplishing.
Commissioner Dale Anderson?
Well, I don't want to limit the questions because that's important, but I'd like to make a motion to authorize staff and council to continue negotiating on the landfill gas purchase and ground lease agreement.
I'm going to ask the administrator. I see this as an informational item, but there was a request within their presentation. Is a motion of that sort in order at this time?
Really, this is informational based off board discussion. If that discussion is moving in that direction, if the board would like the staff, as Dale stated, for us to explore the agreement, have our county attorney review the agreement, then the next step would be to bring back the agreement to board for review and approval. But we can, that's where I just wanted to see what the board discussion would be today.
Could we just do a head nod like we do sometimes to keep proceeding with this and let's see the contract?
yeah, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
especially given that the county attorney is not here today.
Right behind you.
Yes.
Hey, Shane. But also that, it's been a year since we heard any of this. Give us an opportunity to sleep on it, to think about it, and then I don't think you guys would have to come back for action at a future board meeting. Ryan could present it and the administrator could present it, so I'd like to sleep on this a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not saying that we're going to do anything, so I didn't know. It's just information, sorry. Screwed up.
Are we thinking?
It's really the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
if we bring back the agreement, the board, it doesn't solidify a board decision, so we can work on that.
Okay, so keep talking. Without a formal directive to do so. That sounds like a plan to me. So,
I do have
that's
one-
called everyday operation.
I do have one other thing. I think the biggest thing about this, and probably me and Roger drive by this every day, And I think anything that we can do to eliminate odor and to take advantage of this, gas that basically we're putting up in the atmosphere is a very important thing. So I think that, no matter what we can do, whether we have to or not have to, it's always easier to be proactive than reactive. So I think that really gives us an opportunity here to get ahead of the ball instead of having to be told we have to do it this way. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to put this together and be proactive instead of reactive on this. It's probably gonna be a lot easier, so.
We thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Commissioner Beck.
Yeah, thank you. And it does sound like an exciting opportunity. However, being the early adapter is a little unnerving at times. And we did the same thing with the leachate buster, and it went through some trials and tribulations, and I think it's operating well now, from what I understand. But so, thank you for the opportunity to be, what, the second or third one that you'd have done, or is that correct? Just the second one, or do you have one down in Hastings, Nebraska, I think you said? Okay. So, understand our efforts at due diligence here.
Thank you. No, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And we'll be looking forward to seeing this come before us again in the future. At this time, we'll hear from Kristen Johnson, the Executive Director of Prairie Lakes Youth Programs, with an update for us today.
Good morning. I believe there is a PowerPoint. Yes, I'll get it pulled up. So, good morning. I'm Kristen Johnson, the Executive Director at Prairie Lakes Youth Programs. Going to skip to the next one. Just a little bit of background about myself. I moved to Willmar in 2020. My family and I came from Northwest Iowa. My husband did a career change, which brought us here. My kids at that time were going into their freshman, 8th grade years of high school, so we moved, or 8th grade with middle school, but we moved during COVID, so that was a really interesting time to move here. At the time that we moved here, my husband hooked on with Prinsco. And I hooked on at Johnson Moody, Schmidt, Kleinheisen, and Zumwalt out at their law office. And then the opportunity arose with Prairie Lakes. And so as they got their driver's license and a little bit of freedom came about, I knew that I could take on a new challenge. So I came out there and started as a program director. And then when Holly Booth chose to move on, I applied for the executive director position and moved into this position. So I've been out there about 2 years. I have a background in corrections. I spent 22 and a half years as a probation parole officer in Northwest Iowa. And then prior to that, I worked in a couple of juvenile facilities. I'm a Mankato State graduate. That's before it was the University of whatever it is now. I was Mankato State, so I'm that old that it was still the traditional name that it was. With a corrections, criminal justice degree and a Spanish minor from way back then. So that's what got us here. It was one of the best moves we ever made. We were very nervous about making that transition after spending that long in Iowa. Taking that leap of faith was very scary, especially during COVID. But Willmar has treated us very, very well. Both of my kids were Willmar graduates in 2025 and have both headed on to college. The girls are twins. Allie, my blonde, and well, they're both pretty blonde in that picture, but the one they were both very involved in the high school. Willmar High School was a blessing to us. They were both captains of all of their teams that they were on. Allie actually ended up with a full ride to WKU on a speech scholarship, so she's doing extremely well. And Maddie went into education after being a lot of really good teachers from the Willmar schools, and she will be accepting her American degree in FFA this year in Indianapolis, which only 1% of kids go on to do. And it's a lot of kudos to Willmar and what they did for my kids. So, and then Ethan, my oldest, he was a Iowa graduate, but went on to St. Cloud State and just earned his master's degree. So Minnesota's been very good to us. So many of you know Prairie Lakes was founded in 1991 as a detention center. And that's not really a term we use a lot anymore. We are a juvenile facility that houses a lot of different programs within what we do. We do still have what would have been regarded as our detention program originally. That is our program that still sits out on the 1808 building on the Midwest campus. That is our program that houses 23 of our youth that come in when they have initially gotten into trouble and are initially arrested. And so those kids could come into us and stay for a very, very brief period of time. It could be 24 hours till they go to court and the court determines what's going to happen next. Or they could be a significant period of time until the court decides what's going to happen with them. They could also be our corrections stay, so they could be sentenced and then they could serve that sentence with us. Then we also have our Captain's Academy program, which is on the 3rd floor of that building, which is our non-secure program. So those kids, those doors are locked on the way in for safety, but not on the way out. So those kids are free to leave. Those kids are working on getting jobs, working on community skills. Those kids are participating in community events throughout the community. So we're working on a lot of those independent living skills with those kids. And that program houses 16 of our youth. And then we have 3 group homes within the community. One that houses 12 girls and then 2 houses that sit side by side, and that houses up to 24 of our boys. Those kids are working on skills to go back home, to reunify with family. Sometimes those are some of our CHIPS cases where those kids may be a voluntary placement, they may be a detention placement. It just depends on how those kids are placed with us. Our secure kids, which are those kids out on that 1808 campus, our Wilmer Public Schools come in and teach in that building. And then our non-secure and our group home kids, those are now being taught out on 768 North Creek Drive, which is a building we're in the process of purchasing. That building is new to us. We've been in it a little over a year now, and we're working to secure financing on that building currently. So the Wilmer's teachers come there and teach, and then we have partnered with the Wilmer schools, and so then they pay us a rent per diem every month as well. So that's been a really great building and a really great avenue that we've gone down. One of the fun facts about when, I think I have this right, Corky, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when when Prairie Lakes first started back in 1991, our 5 county joint powers board each put in $5,000 to get started, and we've never asked for another penny from any of those counties. That we've been self-sufficient since that time. So that's pretty good for the background. So hopefully we can keep it that way. We do have, moving forward, our infrastructure is in some pretty rough shape in a lot of places. Our 1808 building needs a lot of work, and then our group homes need some work as well. So COVID was hard on us, so there are some things that we've been working on. We re-roofed our group homes. We're looking at doing some infrastructure updates on our group homes, and then trying to figure out what happens to our secure building next, whether we move on from the building we're in, whether we renovate it, what our next steps are for our secure kids. So these are just some pictures of our kids out in the community. We really try to get involved in as many community events as we can to get those kids out and about. We try to keep them as busy as we possibly can. So teaching those skills, getting as many tools into their tool bag as we can before they leave us, so that they have those skills when they get home. When they come to us, it doesn't matter what their backgrounds are. When they come to us, we're gonna try as hard as we can to teach them all of the skills that we can give them to send them home with. I've had a lot of people ask us what our success rate is, and we always say all of them have some sort of success with us, because if they go home with something that they didn't come with, then we were successful in some way with our kids. Our board meets the 3rd Wednesday of every month. So if you ever want to attend our board meetings and see what goes on, we do updates from all of our programs at our board meetings, talk about the things that we're utilizing our money for and spending our money on and where our money goes. We are good steward, or we try to be extremely good stewards of our money and where our money goes and what we purchase. Some of our big purchases this month was things like furniture. We're buying new couches and new tables for our houses. Kids are hard on things, and so we run through a lot of things very quickly. So if you're ever getting rid of furniture in your own houses and you want to donate, always call us before you take it anywhere, because we might be in need of something. We're always in need of clothes, shoes, like plastic dishes, those sorts of things. Before you get rid of them, think of us, because we go through a lot of stuff very, very quickly. So I did that really fast, but any questions?
I'll look to Commissioner Berg first. Sure. For this, since he sits on your board.
Yes, he does.
And Commissioner Roger Emdek, he's also the alternative, and since I will not be there next year, he's starting to attend the meetings as well. But just a couple of things I want to add to it, just to point out that group homes were owned by Candioi County prior to this whole thing. So we have quite an investment in this, and it's really an important service, because with these juveniles, and some of these crimes are very serious, you know?
Yes.
Somebody just shot and killed somebody not that long ago and got into our facility as well because of that. So we need these facilities close to us. Otherwise, if we didn't have a facility like this, we would be having to haul our kids miles away, and there's not that many facilities left in the state of Minnesota. They're hard to cash flow. They're hard to make work. I think you are doing an excellent job, and the board is doing an excellent job of making it cash flow again. And it's a struggle, and the facility is really, the secure facility needs some major both the county and the board. You can only do so much with one of these old regional treatment center buildings, and repairing them and keeping them up is a major expense. So we're struggling to going forward with this, but it's an important program, and it can cash flow if we get it set up, and we're going in a good direction. Can you comment about the catchment area for all the kids that we're serving? And it's just not Candioi County kids or from the other 4 counties. The other 4 counties as part of it, you know, they're pretty small counties, some of those, and they don't have many kids involved in this. So it's interesting joint powers we have, but it's working really well.
Yes, we take from all over the state of Minnesota. Southwest Minnesota is really, you know, the majority of where we get from, but we get referrals from all over the state. And then obviously, like our secure kids, when they're coming in, those come right to our door. And so those are coming in all hours of the day, all hours of the night. And so we're taking those kids and we do the intakes immediately. So we have staff on, you know, ready to go all the time. We have counties that are contract counties, so they contract beds, like Stearns County contracts beds from us. So we always hold a bed for them. Usually their bed is always full. So they'll call and say, you know, is our bed full? If their bed is full, they'll ask if they can bring a kid, and if we have space, then we'll take in their kid. If their bed's not full, then we automatically take that kid. Our group homes, we do more of a referral process with them. So the referrals come in, our staff, or our program directors go through, and then we try to make sure that they're a really good fit in the group homes. You want to make sure with our group homes, because it's a house style living, and so you want to make sure that you have a good mix of kids that work well together, especially with going to school together, living together, or doing all of those things. And it's a variety of ages. Our group homes are anywhere from ages 10 to 21. After 18, we do have to get a variance from the state, but we have gotten those variances. We have one right now at our boys group home. He is 18, he's graduated. He graduated from the ALC this year. And so he stayed with us through the summer, and so we've had that variance through the summer. He will now leave in the fall, but he's a really neat kid. We have another kid, we had a girl this year who graduated, walked through high school ceremony and graduated. We have a young man who is going to the high school this year playing varsity football. So we all get to be football parents this year. We're actually doing one of the football dinners at the high school for him, which is extremely fun. So just some really neat things that, like that kid, just super proud to be on that football team, and it's really fun, and he never would have had that opportunity had he not come to be with us. And one other thing I didn't get to mention that's really fun is we have 2 therapy dogs within our programs as well, which we take a lot of pride in. Our kids don't get a lot of touch. If they've been in a group home, or if they've been in a program for a really long time, we don't really get to hug our kids, or the best we really do is like a high five or an elbow or, a fist bump. So they don't get a lot of touch. And so when they can lay on the floor and pet a dog, or the dog curls up next to them, they get that hug, or they get to kiss the dog, or whatever it is that they need, they finally get some of that physical touch. And one of the dogs is mine. I'm one of the handlers. And at first, when I started bringing my dog, I got really nervous because I was like, this is my dog I take home every night. And I was like, what if one of them hurts my dog? Or what if, it's really neat to watch how they care about where the dog is. If someone else is doing something they're not supposed to be doing, someone instantly goes to, where's Piper? What is she doing? And they take care of her. The care. That dog becomes really, really important to them. So it's a really neat piece of our programs.
Just a follow-up comment or question as well, too. Rehabilitation and therapy is really a big part of this whole program, too, going forward. But the board is made up of, one commissioner from each of the counties, but also 2 other individuals that are non-voting. But would you just comment on them being part of that, which is an important aspect to advise us as we go through this?
Yes, so we have 2 non-voting members who are both part of corrections. So we have that side of it as well, and so we utilize them for that corrections piece. Safety and security is always at the forefront of everything we do. Safety and security comes first for everything, not just for the kids, but our staff. So those are the key pieces. But then the rehabilitation piece, and that rehabilitation word really gets, kind of coined in there, but really it's teaching the skills, teaching those kids the skills. They may not have ever been taught how to de-escalate. They've never been taught how to calm themselves down. They've never been taught how to take a break or how to walk away from something. If we're out on the rec yard and we're playing volleyball and they start to go back and forth and banter, they don't know how to banter, and they don't know how to do it appropriately. So these are the kids that are going to banter, and at the football game, they're going to come back and they're going to start a fight, or they're going to draw a weapon, or whatever they're going to do. So instead of just ending it and going in, we teach how to banter appropriately and how to have fun with it, and then how to settle yourself back down and be able to walk away, because they don't know how to do that. No one's ever taught them. It always escalates and continues to escalate, and then it's the get back. So how do you teach how to resolve those situations so that when they go home, they know how to do it differently? It's a really big piece of what we do.
Commissioner Imdahl.
Thank you. Sometimes my wife and I could use that coaching. So the clients that come in, use example of Stearns County, they're paid for by Stearns County or the county of origin, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the 1808 building. I think that's the secure building, right?
Yes.
And most of us have had a chance to tour that building, and it's in a sorry state of repairs, in my opinion. So has there ever been any thought, exploration into, do you fix up this historic building, which is kind of a cool thing to consider, or do you start over, and is there, money available from federal corrections or state corrections to even consider building a new facility?
Those talks have been started, and we have looked down some avenues, and we're meeting after our board meeting on Wednesday to kind of go down some of those roads. We looked at a building on the Midwest campus, and that has been in discussions. Then the talk is, do we look over that 1808 building? There has been some discussion in-house a little bit with my staff again about talking about the 1804 building. And then we've talked about building. I talked about the Hennens building, but that has since sold. So my eyes are always open as to what's out there that we could use, what could we do, what are opportunities. I meet with Taylor out at Midwest quite frequently about what's out there for us. really big price tags. So being really good stewards of our money, what's in our best interest to do, and how does that look?
And in that vein, is there room for expansion? In other words, if we have a capacity now for 30 kids, I don't have any idea what the number is, could we handle more?
Correct. And then the other question is, corrections ebbs and flows. And so it's that idea of where do we want to be? Do we want to build for more secure kids? Do we want to build for more non-secure kids? Do we want it to be able to open and close? Like right now, our third floor, it can be changed, and we have changed it a lot. Corky knows this very, very well. When we were a completely secure building before the 1804 lightning strike. And so we were a secure building and our non-secure was next door, which was fantastic. It was a beautiful setup. And then after that happened, we had to quickly pivot and figure out what we were going to do with those kids. Well, our third floor can be opened up to a non-secure, and that courtyard can be opened up and we can pivot what we do. So that's what we did. Then we opened our captain's house and figured out that that house didn't work super well for a non-secure. So we moved our captains back over and are opening that house now as a group home. There's a huge need for group homes. Now, as we know, August 1st, they changed legislation that 10 to 12-year-olds can't be held insecure. So there's another change in legislation to try to decide, do we maybe want to look at what we need to do with 10 to 12-year-olds and looking at those statistics? And do we want to have a group home or a wing specifically for that age group? So there's a lot of things you got to take into consideration as we look at what we're doing next.
Promise my last question. Prairie Lakes Youth Program is a significant employer in this region, isn't it? How many people do you employ? FTEs?
Right now, we have 65 employees.
Thank you. Anyone else from the board with questions? Commissioner?
Yeah, Commissioner Imdag, he kind of stole my thunder, but it was about how you're going to go forward, because the infrastructure, those buildings on the campus there, they're old, and and everything is kind of added on as, new technology comes in and stuff, and the heating and cooling systems there are what kind of are one of the major issues, because in a locked cell or locked room, that's where you have the problems. But anyway, so you have kind of a plan going forward on that, and kind of my question also would be like the 1804, how are you adapting? You kind of talked about it a little bit, but how are you going to move forward from all that with that lightning strike? And, because also you had a building, now you don't have it. And
Right.
So how's that working out?
So the way that we adapted was we are purchasing the building that we go to school in now. And so that is where we moved all of our administration and our school, because that 1804 building was our captains, our school, and our admin. So captains is now in the 1808 building. So it went upstairs. So we lost those beds, basically, was what we did. And then we are purchasing that building for school and admin. So that we have adapted to. The 1808 building needs work. So what we have to decide is it advantageous to put the work into that building, or is it advantageous to build or to find some structure that's already standing? Then the next piece of that is the 1804 building worth putting work into, not worth, is Candy Ohio going to tear it down? What is the plan with that building? What do we want to do? Do we need it? Where does it go? One of the things that it's a dream or a wish or whatever it is, we don't have a kitchen. And so all of our food is done through Skillet, which is who the jail uses. But it would be really nice to have our own kitchen and be able to cook, be able to provide our own meals to our kids, be able to do all of those things. We qualify for the food and nutrition through the schools. And so we are working with Skillet to get that up and going. But if we cooked for ourselves, we would get reimbursed doing it ourselves and be able to control all of those pieces, and that would be very advantageous to us. So just another piece of that puzzle of if we could put a kitchen in, if we could do all of those things. Right now, our kids in secure, just to kind of, when you walk into our secure building, you walk into where our kids live. So when anybody comes in to visit, When they walk into our building, you are in where they live. If you walked into the jail out here, you would never walk into where the inmates are. You would come into the office part or the lobby part. We don't have that. You're right where the kids are. So being able to kind of change all of that up and be able to let the kids have a safe space where people don't just walk into where they live. Part of with our kids, what's really big is you have to build trust and you have to make them feel safe. And right now, the way that building is set up, we don't make them feel safe. So whatever we do, that's always what has to be first, and then being very trauma informed. So if we renovate, if we build, whatever we do, those are the forefront of what we have to do.
I just have one other thing. Maybe a tour would be good in the future. I've toured it before, but it'd be kind of nice to have us get like an update on it. And I hate to add extra stuff to the rest of us commissioners, but something like that, because we got to look at what to do with that building and try to convince our other partners that, yeah, you have to do that. Because when I first looked at it, or when I first heard that, you know, you need a new building or you need something new, I thought, well, everybody likes things that are shiny and bright. But then I toured it and I was like, yeah, okay, I get it now. So
Yeah,
you do
and we
need
have,
something.
we have water coming in the foundation. You know, there's cracks and there's water coming in the cells. We have water pouring in over our server. We put $37,000 water heaters in, and the water came in over the steps and fried out the motherboard. Like the very week we put in the new water heaters. So it's just this constant battle. But if we decide we're going to stay in that building, I mean, I think those things can be fixed and they can be remedied if that's where we're going to stay. It's just the infrastructure hasn't been kept up, but other buildings on the campus have, if that's where we're going to stay. It's where we want to put our money and what we want to do with it. And that's bigger than me. That's a lot of other pieces to the puzzle.
Commissioner Berg, and then we're going to wrap this up and move along.
Yes, that's a very good point. We got a long agenda. But Commissioner Dwayne Anderson, you brought up really a good question. You know, this is really the board's issue as well. And every joint powers is unique. You've seen one, you've only seen one joint powers. And this is very unique with 5 counties, and this has worked really well up to this point. And it is working well. So as far as management of the programs and being flexible and adjusting to what's taken place, there's been a lot of issues that, you know, we had no control over the lightning hitting the
Yep.
building and burning it up, and all these other things that took place. But it does cash flow, and I think you brought up a good question, is that, you know, Prairie Lake Youth Program actually has been renting those buildings from the county. So we've been generating some revenue for us, maybe not much because we do some of the maintenance stuff as well, but over $70,000 a year, you know, so if the county decides to do something, or should the county decide, because this is an asset to Candioi County and our region and this part of the state, and really the whole state, that we do keep this program going. And so is this something we may want to look at as a board, you know, that can we help finance this some way moving forward and have some discussion about it. And I think that's where maybe a work session coming up sometime would be a good idea for the board to sit down with you and maybe with the Joint Powers Board and just discuss where are we going to go with this and what can we do as Candioi County to make this work, because this is really mostly Candioi County's programs. You know, of the 5 counties, it's our children that our kids that end up there, but it's a program for the state. And I think we have a good thing going, but we should keep it growing. I think Clay County's building, they went together, but they're taking the lead on that. And they're doing something similar, but building a brand new multi-million-dollar building. But the idea of this kind of bonding or whatever is a positive thing because it generates revenue to pay it. So it doesn't come back on the taxpayers. And it's a real asset for our community. And enough said. Thank you.
All right, very good. Kristen, thank you so much for the
Thank you.
update, and good luck, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
We did not plan this conversation.
Let's take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll lead off with KCED. The Candy High County Board of Commissioners is back in session. At this time, we will hear from Sheree Wagner, the Economic Development Management Director for Candy County Economic Development. Sheree, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Commissioners and Administrator Baker. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. You are a little behind schedule, so I'll talk fast to try to keep it up. This is just a general update on KCED activities and, of course, a little update on the Uptown Mall investigation process. So most importantly, KCED is moving forward with a fully new staffed team. And so we have Renee Kuhl coming in as our Operations and Administrative Coordinator. We have Liz Heimer, who's focusing on economic development in the city of Willmar. We have Mohammed Gabo, who is focusing on the economic development in Greater Candy-Ojai County. Myself with Marv Calvin are working on $1 million plus projects, and then in addition to that, I am working on the administration of our organization. So we feel like there's a great new energy going on in our office, and we've been making a wonderful impact in the community, which has been great. In addition to that, we have started doing an executive summary to our boards, letting them know the activities that have been going on a weekly basis, and we've been sharing a revised version of that with some of our stakeholders so that they know what's happening from economic development in the county, which has garnished great leads. Commissioner Imduk, thank you, on different projects that are available in the community. So our board members, stakeholders have reached out to us as they have been hearing things that have been going on for leads for our office to follow up on. And some of those have resulted in, we have 5 businesses that we're currently engaging in, of them either starting or moving to Candy-Ojai County through the leads based on our executive summaries. So we know that that's effective and going well. We're also about to start our Entrepreneur Elevate program. So we'll be running 2 of them this fall, one for English and one for Spanish. They start in September. But that program has a second piece of it, and it's BAS, it's a Business Acceleration Success Program. So we're working with Rising Tide Capital right now to get that program set up. And basically, it's an additional 6-week program to further support those entrepreneurs once they're starting their business. So it's great that we get them started, but oftentimes they need a little bit more support to be successful. And we have that program starting in October. Jill is here. We are administering the HRA-funded exterior improvement deferred loans, forgivable loans, and the $130,000 for the community projects in Greater Candy-Ojai County. The Willmar project is coming to an end of the application process, and the review process for that, I believe, is August 23rd. The county community one, which Mohammed is working on, is ongoing. We're meeting with all 13 counties, working with the cities to determine how we can spend $10,000 in each community for exterior improvements of their buildings and businesses. And then they have a deferred loan, which is 5 years, interest-free, no payment, 20% investment to improve their buildings for $10,001 to $50,000. So we are currently vetting out applications for those programs. I think we have 5 in total at the moment, so we're excited to get that up and running as well. In July, we asked our Joint Powers Board for permission to investigate opportunities with the Uptown Mall. And they gave us that go-ahead to start looking at it. The messaging that got out publicly was KCED is buying a mall. What we really asked for was just permission to investigate it. So that's what we've been doing. We did 4 days of public comment to hear what the public had to think about the process. We've shared ideas. We've met with many stakeholders, many people who are interested in investing, people who have just general ideas about the mall, people who are not happy with the idea of government stepping in and helping out. Full gamut. And we have been number crunching. And sometimes I feel like when you're working with things so closely, you're in the trees and you can't see the forest anymore. So just before last week, I took all of our financial information on the Uptown Mall that we've been working with the broker, and I took it to one of our local stakeholder banks and had them review all the financial pieces to make sure we're not missing anything. It's tight, but they are sharing with us their thoughts on that. And then from that and further investigations that we're doing, we'll make a determination if we're going to come to our Joint Powers Board and ask them to move forward, or if we're going to suggest to them that it's not a feasible financial situation for the KCED, or look for alternatives. So we're still just doing a lot of investigation and a lot of opportunities for this, but it is pretty exciting, all the people who have come together to support this and come up with ideas. What questions do you have?
Cherie, it's kind of almost a chicken and the egg thing. If there was a impetus from the private sector to actually do something, that potentially would have been done by now. But I understand the reticence of folks out in the community to have government step in and do something like this. KCED is a pretty small organization.
We are.
So I think there's a lot to talk about there, but just any general comments on that?
We've been very cautious in our financial looking at this to make sure that we weren't asking for tax abatements, TIFs. We weren't going to ask to take it out of the tax roll. We weren't asking the county or the city for additional taxation to cover this. We were looking at strictly revenue bonding for this. We wanted to make sure that the existing tenants would be able to cash flow the expense of running the mall itself. We worked with the city on what it would look like if we were able to parcel out any part of the property based on a larger comprehensive plan. We've worked with city and soil and water conservation, as well as deed for brownfield, and there's also another non-renewing reurbanization grant to help offset the cost. And we're very aware that grants are covered by taxpayer dollars. It's just those dollars have already been collected and they will be distributed. So our feeling is, since they're already there, we would rather have them brought into Kandiyohi County than maybe given to Minneapolis. And so if we can utilize funds that have already been captured for the benefit of our community, that's what we'd like to do, but we wouldn't like to add any additional burden to our taxpayers. And KCED does not want to be a mall owner or a landlord. What we want to do is take an asset in our community, rehab it, and get it back into the private sector as quickly as possible. We think that we can administrate the loan process and the grant process easier and better as a government agency to get the property where it needs to be able to hand off and sell back to private. And we've heard comments of our taxes are going to go up. That's not what we're looking at. You're going to pay 3 times as much for it and sell it for $1 to a doctor. We're not doing that. As a matter of fact, the amount of money that we've discussed with the owner of the property is lower than what he owes on it currently. So we are not looking at an inflated price by any means.
Questions for the director?
Yeah, just a couple other questions, maybe a comment along the same line, and you can expand on it more if you would, please. I kind of think of it like the Y, the WYE. You know, the city, the county was involved in that. You know, we set up the infrastructure for that, and then as a result, we got businesses as part of that, and we're not part of that, but we got like FedEx and so forth going in there. This is kind of the same concept, is that this will be local dollars, am I correct? I mean, the dollars will stay local.
Yes.
Anything's generated, and you're gonna, can you just repeat again how you're gonna cash flow this then?
Yep. So currently, the mall is about 60% empty. So we've gotten the information from the broker of the leases that are in there, when they terminate, what they're paying, what their CAM is, what the expenses of running the mall are. And we know that it will cash flow with 60% empty to maintain running the mall during the construction phase. So any attraction that happens is additional funding that could be used towards the project or for further improvements inside the mall.
Anyone else?
And just a follow-up, you're talking about turning it over to the private sector, and there's some investors interested in it.
There are.
And some, way I understand, possibly. Going forward, there was a time frame. Can you a tentative timeframe, like how long are you talking about this would take place?
So in my ideal world, we would own it for 2 years or less because the grants are 2 years to get the project done. The reality is by the time you finish the projects and get it sold and in that process would probably take 3 years. But we're not looking at long-term ownership of this mall.
3 to 5 years, okay.
My understanding is that an EDA, if there was, if that's how you were structured, would have its own bonding authority. But this is a joint powers between the city of Wilmer and Candy, Ohio County. So I assume that there's got to be some approvals by both of those bodies if there was bonding that was going to happen.
So in our bylaws, not bylaws, but our declaration from the state and the IRS, we actually have bonding power as an entity because we're an EDC, not an EDA. However, we would want to make sure that first and foremost, our joint powers gave us permission and approval, and then we would want to go to the city and have their nod, and to the county to have their nod, because it's going to affect everybody. But ultimately, the power of the decision is our joint powers, because we do have our own bonding ability.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you for the update.
Yes, you have a wonderful day.
Mohammed, welcome. Thank you. All right, at this time, then I believe HRA Director Jill Bankston is up and going to, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm on the right page. I just have to hold that out a little further. Jill, you're here with an update for us, and good morning.
Good morning. Jill Bankson, Candy County HRA. I'm doing an update, also doing tax levy requests for 2027. Okay, so just gonna run through a few highlights over the past year, things coming up. I would say this past year is marked a little bit, but we had some, most of our employees are very long-term, but we're kind of reaching the place now where people are starting to think of retirement and that kind of thing. We replaced 2 positions in the last year. One was our accountant position, which was really hard to fill because everybody needs accountants. And we worked with CDS for a couple years to do fill-in work. But Julie Clark is our newest accountant, and she's up and running now. We also hired John Shelton. He's a housing rehab manager. He replaced Dale Slaughter, who was with us for many years, has done many rehabs of many buildings all over the county in his 30-plus year career. So John is up and running too and doing a great job. Going forward, we are going to be adding a few additional positions on. Tomorrow it should hit our local paper. We are hiring an assistant executive director position. We'll be also filling another housing specialist position to work in our rental assistance programs. And then we're gonna be looking at a loan position to work with the Housing Trust Fund ordinance and unrolling some of those programs. A couple other highlights in the past year, as Cherie just alluded to, we assisted in creating a property enhancement program for businesses, and she just talked about all of that, but if any local businesses are interested in that facade program, please contact Cherie and her staff at the Candy County EDC. They've been doing a great job of marketing that and getting the word out. We also entered into a contract with Minnesota Housing to administer the state's Bring It Home rental assistance program. That was a new rental assistance program that was created in the 2023 legislature. We just opened our waiting list on July 23rd. We will close that waiting list when we get 50 pre-apps for Candy, Ohio County and 50 for McLeod. We already have 40 for Candy, Ohio, so we're probably looking at closing their portion in a couple weeks, and then starting to do verifications of everyone on the list. So that program, I'm going to talk about that one a little bit. It's modeled after the federal Housing Choice Voucher Program. However, the state of Minnesota has allowed us to do some tweaks to it and put some of our own community needs in there. So one of the things that we've done different is about a year ago, Crystal Roloffs with Department of Corrections approached me and said, We're having a difficult time placing people that are coming out of jail, prison, treatment centers, and finding housing for them. Frankly, because a lot of the programs that we administer, the federal or state program rules don't allow to assist some of those people because of the criminal history. So we decided for this one that we were going to work with county corrections and put in our application that anybody coming out of those institutions, we were going to kind of look past those criminal histories and give them a chance to try and get leased up. So we have put in our waiting list preferences. Anybody working with corrections, they will get 5 preference points on the wait list, along with some of the other preferences we have, people with children at 30% median income, and people who are residents of McLeod or Candy-Ojai County. And then finally, another highlight for the year is we're working on finalizing building specs to solicit bids to construct a 4-plex market rate townhome project. In the city of Atwater, we submitted an application for funding to Minnesota Housing and were awarded $360,000. So this is for people that are, it's called workforce housing. It's not subsidized housing. Rents will probably be around $1,200 per month for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath townhome with either a single or double garage. They're about 1,100 square feet, so we're gonna see how the bids come in, and then we'll have to redo our development budget, I'm sure, and our operating budget, and see how all that pans out. Any questions so far on any of that? Does anyone have?
Anyone? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. And then just running through some of the programs that we have. I kind of do this annually, so I'll be kind of quick on this. The HRA owns 204 rental property units. Most of this is HUD public housing developments, which would include our Lakeview townhomes, Lakeview apartments, the 8-story high-rise, Wellshire townhomes, and then we have 18 single-family homes that are scattered in the city of Willmar. Lakeview High Rise, I didn't mention, but that's a very large building, 127 units in it. There's always infrastructure building projects going on in the next year. We will be doing a $3 million project to replace the roof, replace the generator, replace the large electrical gear system and all of the electrical panels in each unit. The fire alarm system. We just did the elevators. We did all the windows, doors, exterior, concrete ceiling a couple years ago. It's just a building that always has to be stayed on top of, or it can fall apart easily, and it's 55 years old. Country View Place is a long-term supportive housing project located in the city of Willmar. And then Candy-Ojai County HRA townhomes are located in New London, Pennock, Raymond, and Candy-Ojai. We manage 285 housing units for other third-party owners. So that's West Central Mental Health Housing is located in Willmar in 3 different locations, a total of 12 units for persons with serious and persistent mental illness. Dana Heights Apartments and Townhomes, there's 2 buildings with 12 units in each, and then there's 24 townhomes located over by Pizza Ranch in Willmar. West Wind Townhomes is owned by the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership, 28 units on the southwest side of town. Highland Apartments is actually owned by a limited partnership made up of the HRA and a private investor, located in Willmar, 78 units. And I'm sorry, I see there's an error on there. We no longer have assisted living services. That was ended 2 years ago. And then we manage McLeod County HRA townhomes located in Stewart, Broughton, Glencoe, Silver Lake, and Lester Prairie. Those are just like the market rate townhomes we have here in Candy-Ojai County. And then finally, 15th Street Flats in Willmar is a 47-unit low-income housing tax credit project built in 2019. Tenant-based rental assistance programs, so we manage the Housing Choice Voucher Program. It can assist up to 498 households in Candy, Ojai, and McLeod counties. Bridges to Bridges, we administer with the Southwest Minnesota Adult Mental Health Consortium. They are the funding source, and we administer it over 18 counties in Southwest Minnesota. Just talked about the Bring It Home Rental Assistance Program, which is new. The next page shows you income limits for Candy, Ojai County. Small Cities Development Program for the city of Atwater will be wrapping up in the next year. We're about to enter into a contract between the city and a contractor to do restroom rehab starting in the fall. And then we've done about, I want to say maybe about 8 loans for homeowners in the city of Atwater. We have a little bit of money left to help a few more. Down payment assistance program for anyone looking at buying homes. Interest rate would be 1% over 15 years. And Minnesota City's participation program, every year we apply for funding bond money that the state of Minnesota has. It's an allocation set aside for Candy, Ojai County specifically, and then local banks that are doing first-time buyer loans, they access those funds. Finally, our tax levy request for 2027 is $1,205,142. This is an increase of $23,630 over 2026, or a 2% increase. The bulk of our funding for our agency comes from federal state funding. Our total budget for 2027 is $9,883,237. Following federal and state funding, then we look at tax levy is $1.19 million for the fiscal year. I'll just say that our fiscal year runs on a different time frame than our tax levy request year. Yours is calendar year, ours is 6/30. Rent and fees, we collect about 1.1 million. Fees for service, 1.158 million. And then we're going to use some reserves and interest of about 81,838. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll stand aside if there's any questions.
Thank you, Jill. Any questions for Jill from the board? Commissioner Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One question I have is about the federal and state share of this. And how does this fit in with what you got from the federal and state last year? Are they still funding it? And is there any increase in that?
I would say the federal funding is about the same. This year, it's actually higher because we're going to be drawing down capital funds for some of the big rehab that we're going to do at Lakeview. Plus, we received a $2 million grant from the state of Minnesota for doing rehab. So that's why federal and state looks much higher than last year.
Okay, just wanted to compare it to. Thank you.
Yep.
Good to hear.
All right. Anyone else? I maybe need to ask Administrator Baker, but I believe there've been some state funds that have come in over the last several years that we have chosen to move towards the local housing trust fund. Are those all done now, or is that something that is continuing?
So we received 1 year of allocation of your SAHA funds, which are actually going to go into the development for the city of Atwater, the 4-unit complex. And then I believe we also received some ARPA funds that are also part of that project. Yep, and then the rest of our local housing trust fund dollars that we have, we're waiting to enroll until we get our contract from the state of Minnesota, and then we're going to be doing more single-family rehab and then talking with the HRA board about what else do you want to use these funds with. We're kind of, I believe there's a update to a housing study being completed, and once we have that done and look at that, then we're going to probably be coming out with something new for those dollars.
All right. Very good. All right.
Do-
If there-
Mr. Chair, do we need a motion then for approval?
I see this was also informational, but is a,
Do you want a motion?
If the board is ready, that would,
Or it can wait at the next board
let's
Okay.
hear it today, and then we'll take it up at the first meeting next month.
all right, thank you
Jill,
very much.
thank you for the update.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At this time, Corey Smith, Green Lake Sanitary Sewer and Water District Supervisor, has a lease agreement for us. Corey, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Corey Smith. I'm the director out at Glacial Lakes Sanitary Sewer and Water District. Before I start, I would like to point out a typo in the first line under background information. It should say City of New London, not City of Spicer. So before you today is a water tower lease agreement between the district, or Glacial Lakes, and the City of New London. The agreement allows the city to place its antennas for meter reading on top of our tower that is district-owned. It is located near the high school in New London, and this agreement is for a 5-year term. There is no charge for the use of the tower because the city of New London is a member of the district system. Additionally, the agreement allows the district to utilize the antenna that they will be putting on there. The primary purpose of this agreement is to establish clear expectations and responsibilities regarding the installation, inspection, maintenance, and use of the equipment on the tower. On July 27th, the Glacial Lakes Commission recommended forwarding the agreement to the county board for consideration. With that, it is the commission's recommendation that the board authorize the administrator and the chair to execute the agreement on behalf of the county, entering into a 5-year agreement with the city of New London.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Yes. That was a motion?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of that. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Discussion. This seems pretty routine.
Yep.
And I just wanted to say thank you for the tour
Oh, sure.
of the new facilities that we had the other day. So, with that, any other questions for the director? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agreement. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Corey, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Austin Hillbrands, Public Drainage Manager and Ag Inspector. Want to talk about an unwanted visitor in Candy, Ohio County.
Morning, Mr. Chair, board members, Austin Hillbrands, Drainage Manager, Ag Inspector. Coming to you today is the Ag Inspector. Yeah, we do have an unfortunate update for you. We did find a new noxious weed species in Candy County. That noxious weed species is red hailstone. You can see it on the, it's under the eradicate list on the noxious weed, on our Minnesota noxious weed list. I do have a PowerPoint. Can I pull that up on here? When you get to look at the PowerPoint, you'll see the noxious weed list. I just want to briefly go over that quick. So on the right, we have specially regulated plants. Those are nursery stock that's being phased out. And most likely you'll see those on the restricted list coming up. The restricted list are plants that can no longer be sold or moved or transported in Minnesota. And then you got the control list, which include Canadian thistle, wild parsnip. Those are noxious weed species that need to be controlled on all lands within Minnesota. And then now we have red hailstone on our eradicate list. The eradicate list, all plants need to be completely eradicated from all lands in Minnesota. So as far as I know, there's never been an eradicate species in Candy County until now, yeah. So we are one of 4 counties, Washington County, Otter Tail County, and another county by the cities that have infestations that are either eradicated or being eradicated. So the blue colored text that are on this list are what are found in Candy County, So this is a part of a handout from the Minnesota Noxious Weed Book put out by the Minnesota DOT. So this, we'll go over this real briefly, but red hailstone gets their name from this picture in the top right. That is the fruit of the plant. all the infestations found in Candiac County do not have the fruit present, and in Minnesota, we have not found the fruit present. So it's only reproducing by the underground root system. It is native to northern China, Korea, and Russia, and it's a perennial vine, so it dies every winter, comes back as a new plant, grown from the roots. So in this diagram here, it shows effective herbicides. That includes glyphosate, imazapyr, multisulfuron, and triclopyr. So imazapyr and multisulfuron were in a study done by Wisconsin, and they were actually 100% effective in eradicating this, but you do run the risk of killing trees when you spray that by other trees. Unfortunately, this thing likes to grow as a vine under trees and up trees. So this is an infestation, pictures of an infestation found in Dover Township just 2 weeks ago. You can see that it's just completely taken over the understory of the grove. It's shade tolerant. So yeah, Dover Township, section 18. I did send a quarantine letter to this area. With that quarantine letter, we did get word of 2 other infestations. And one I just confirmed this morning, my boots are still wet, so. So yeah, we got do a little identification of this. It's a vine with a heart-shaped leaf. You can see the heart-shaped leaf in this picture, and the yellow flower. The yellow flower blooms this time of year till September, so that's usually the giveaway. It's a vine taking over everything with a yellow flower and a heart-shaped leaf. Here's a close-up of the flower. It's got 5 petals. They produce a tube. And then if you take a look at this, you dig up the root system, you'll see that potato-like root or tuber, they're called. Those are all connected to other potato-like tubers, and they all shoot up new plants. So again, as of right now, there's no fruit, so it's not being transported by fruit. It's still unclear though how we have it in 3 different locations in Candiac County. One was in the city of Wilmer. The original infestation we found was in Dover Township, and the one I found this morning was in Lake Andrew Township. So we'll do a new letter to those landowners with this new infestation, so.
Austin, thank you. Any questions for Austin?
Maybe more of a comment, Mr. Chair, so the one photo there shows a garage or something in the background. Did this come in as a landscape plant possibly?
Yes, most likely this was an ornamental plant, that's how it got introduced to the United States, and then has slowly made its way over here. Yeah. As far as this infestation, it's unclear. This is the one that's in the city of Wilmer. So, and the city of Wilmer did spray this, and should be eliminated now. So hopefully we'll have multiple years of follow-up on all 3 of these sites to confirm that it's gone. So.
Sure. All right, any other questions for Austin? Well, good luck with that one.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to hearing from you at some point in time that it's all gone.
Perfect. Thank you for your time. Yeah, and if anybody does find this, here's my contacts. Please call the Candiac County Ag Inspector so we can document it and make sure it gets eradicated. So.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, let's see, and now we are moving to an action item. This is Resolution 2025-19, or 26. 6? Do I have to put my glasses on again for this? I do. Resolution 2026-19 amendment. Ace Bonema, our Emergency Management Director, is here to present. Ace, good morning.
Good morning. Again, Ace Bonema, Candiac County Emergency Management. More of a housekeeping item. Back in March, you approved Resolution 2026-19, allowing me to apply for some Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, the LCCMR funds. Although our full request wasn't granted, the LCCMR did include our weather radar gap filling project to be included in their recommendation to the legislature for approval, hopefully next session. This 3-year project will help get data from 5 new radars that we hope to bring to Minnesota to help fill these radar gaps. I'm here today requesting an amendment to Resolution 2026-19 to conform better with LCCMR requirements. and also allowing me to execute the agreement and work plans. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for the director?
This is just kind of a housekeeping type thing?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd move on Resolution 2026-19.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Burke seconds. Any discussion? I'm glad to hear that we have some movement towards
Fingers
getting
crossed.
the funding. I don't know, I suspect that with all the retirements at the legislature and all of the new folks that are going to be there this year, it'll be a educational time for a lot of them. And hopefully we can get our message out there on this project. And be
Yeah,
able to-
we are planning on going to the Association of Minnesota Counties, doing more education, that type of thing. So work continues.
All right, very good. Any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion, a second, to move on Resolution 2026-19 amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Ace,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. All right, now we have Forrest Rice, our public health planner, and this is informational report on opioid use trends in Candiota County. Forrest, good morning.
Good morning, Board. I do have a presentation with it. But the data sources that were used were the Health Trends Across Communities, which is a Minnesota effort that works with the hospital systems within Minnesota. And Centricare is one of them, so it's really easy to be able to get really valid data for Candiota County. And then also I used some data from the Minnesota Board of Pharmacy as well as I went through this. Some of the main signals that were brought up while going through this data was opioid use conditions. So that's anyone that was admitted to a hospital for any type of opioid. Could be an overdose, could be a hospitalization, could be a misalignment of even medication if it was an opioid-based one. It went from 180 cases in 2020 to 340 in 2025. And then any substance use disorder whatsoever went from 1,480 to 2,640 in that same time period. So in 5 years, we've been seeing a rapid climb in substance use and opioid use as well. One interesting thing I found, and it's really hard when you're dealing with really, really small numbers and small population counts, but with seniors 65 plus, that age group, they went from 0.4% of opioid use related hospitalizations to 0.8% within that time period, which sounds like a very small number, but also you're thinking, okay, you're going from just about 1 out of every 200 seniors to 1 out of every 100 within that time period, which is concerning to see a climb like that, even when we're talking about small numbers. And then the next one is diagnosed related opioid conditions. They increase steadily. So you can see it's a really normal trend line to see that just kind of just keeps going up and up and up over each year. But it's nearly doubled from 2020 to 2025. Even though the prevalence remains relatively small, the direction supports continued action when we're talking about opioids. And within the next slide, it shows it compared to the broader substance use. So the line on the top is substance use overall, and the line on the bottom is opioid use. It seems a little distorted just because it's smaller percentage versus bigger percentages, but the graph to the right that shows what share of all substance use conditions were opioid related conditions. And then you can see that hovers right between that 12 and 13% range every year for the past 5 years, with 2023 bumping up to 13.1% of the cases of substance use being an opioid use related disorder. So that was separating it from the overall population and just looking at substance use as its own population. So the interpretation is opioid needs to stay focused when we're doing substance use type things. And then adults 18 to 64 have the highest burden of substance use and opioid use related disorders. And again, seniors are showing a notable increase. And it's just kind of getting different visualizations to show like how it keeps climbing over the years. And an older, so adding older adult education, because the assumption, I can't prove it, but the assumption is it might be more related to medication rather than like street opioids. To where you're looking at the younger working classes, it might be a little more of a mix of street and medication. And then the next one, this is from the Minnesota Board of Pharmacy. So they have a controlled substance prescription reporting thing. So it shows all the different schedules. And so every time a prescription's written, it's required to be reported. And it's got the different schedules of drugs that are prescribed. And opioids that are prescribed are usually under Schedule II. However, not every Schedule II drug is an opioid. So that's kind of an important distinction to make. But the lighter line on the left for each one is in 2023, and then the darker line is 2026. So you can see how prescription writing has increased over that time period. And Schedule II has increased 43.3%. So there's 20,143 Schedule II prescriptions in 2023, and then 28,861 in 2025. So we're seeing a big increase in prescriptions that are being written for it. But again, I can't say every single one of those is an opioid prescription that was written. There's other things that fall under Schedule II as well. But it's an interesting point to kind of look at. When we look at different subgroups, it gets a little bit harder to differentiate some of the data just because the more you drill down, the smaller and smaller your numbers get. But the issue is pretty close to the same between male and female. So when we separate the sexes, it's increasing for both demographics. And then race and ethnicity, there's only 3 there, not because there's only 3 races and ethnicities, but these are the only ones that had enough cases to be able to report on. If the numbers go, I believe, below 15 cases, it just shows up as suppressed data. And it can be 1, it can be 15. But out of those, white, Black, African American, and Hispanic Latino are the ones that are actually showing up with reportable data that there's enough cases to be able to report on. But also, it's not saying those cases don't exist in other races and ethnicities. It's just smaller subgroups. And the health trends across communities is a very reliable source, and it can be used as a useful planning signal. But it also doesn't show the whole opioid burden because, again, the HTAC data is hospital data. It's electronic health records. So you have an opioid overdose, but you never touch the hospital, that doesn't get recorded. So you can usually assume there's a little bit more than what the data is actually showing because not every case we're not seeing, like if it didn't touch a hospital, it didn't show up in the data. That's just how it is. It's invisible to me. But what the data can tell us is diagnosed opioid use condition has increased. The broader substance use diagnoses have increased over the time period. Adults 18 to 64 are the highest burden. However, seniors 65 plus, we're starting to see more of a notable increase on that. And then the prescription context helps supports medication safety planning, but it's not going to be able to explain away every single case of opioid use. But also some more important cautions, what data cannot tell us, because you can make data sound really, really fancy, but it's also really important to see the other side. It can't always tell us everything. We don't know whether deaths increase locally. We don't know whether fentanyl specifically increased, because it's opioids altogether, not just a specific one. We can't tell whether prescribing caused opioid diagnoses. I can see that correlation, but I can't say it caused it. And then the full burden among people seeking care, we don't know. We only know the ones that sought the care actually touch the hospital systems. And then complete equity patterns are going to be hard to pull out just because there's suppressed data when we drill down to smaller subpopulations. And then what this can suggest for planning is integrating opioid use into the broader substance use. Anytime we're doing substance use, opioid should be part of that because it's increasing with it. Also, maintain focus on 18 to 64 with treatment, access, harm reduction, naloxone education, and referral pathways. We're already doing great things in Candy, Ohio County, but that's the things we need to be able to continue focusing on as we move forward. And then as new interesting populations pop up, like I found going through the data, some older populations, we're seeing an increase that seemed kind of like a red flag. This is increasing at a rate that I wouldn't have expected. So trying to get down to what that is, if it's medication safety, if it's pain management, because sometimes you get prescribed an opioid and then it's really, really hard to come off of it. Pharmacy partnerships and even having safe disposal and education around that. And then also data stewardship, so using HTAC and the Board of Pharmacy carefully, trying to avoid overclaiming where we can, but also bringing out the important context that we do get from that data. And overall, Candy, Ohio's available data show a clear increase in diagnosed opioid-related conditions. From 20 to 25, it's increasing faster than I would like to see. It'd be nice to see it more leveled off instead of climbing. But the most useful planning frame is not opioids alone, but opioids with broader SUD and behavioral health work, with added focus on working age adults, older adults, and medication safety. And then continuing opioid prevention and harm reduction work, connecting opioid work to broader substance use and mental health planning, and adding older adult medication safety and chronic pain education as explicit planning areas, because those are some of the new things that are coming up as the data comes out.
Forrest, thank you. I know when we were doing all of the different work at the Association of Minnesota Counties and elsewhere on the opioid settlements, Candy County was largely excluded for the most part from that because we just simply didn't have the issues that other counties did. This is an increase in that baseline, but it's still, compared to other counties, relatively small, correct?
I didn't run comparisons to other counties, so that would have to be something I would have to do additionally.
Okay, very good. Questions for Forrest?
Just a question or
Commissioner
kind of a comment. I think you did kind of address this already though, but with the senior population growing, especially in Candy County too, being a regional center, that our numbers of older people are growing too. So that would that influence in the number and growth that you're seeing? Or when you talk about diagnosis-related conditions, so those aren't like people in hospice or anything like that type of?
Anyone that touched a hospital system are going to show up in it. And then so there's two different numbers we can look at because we do have a growing senior population. Is we can just look at the number and that percentage of the population, but also we've got a prevalence rate with it as well. And both numbers have nearly doubled. So we know it's going along with when we separate out 65 plus only, that prevalence rate went from the 0.4 to the 0.8. So that did double. And it's just taking out that only population. So.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Forrest, thank you for the update, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, does anybody need a break, or should we continue plowing through?
Let's do one more and then.
Okay, 5 minutes. We will be.
No, I mean, do one more.
Let's do one more. Gotcha. Okay. All right, very good. At this time, then, we will have Eric Van Dyken presenting Planning Commission recommendations for us today. Eric, good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Eric Van Dyken, County Zoning Administrator. Before you today with two action item requests from the Planning Commission meeting of August 10th. The first request is a rezoning request. This is a 30-plus acre property on just the southeast corner of Nest Lake, just north of County Road 32. The current zoning is for high-density residential, and it's not used at all that way. The landowner does not intend to use it for high density, has some other more ag-related desires for it, and it does have some additional land to the south of it that is zoned into these similar rural districts. So the Planning Commission considered that request and recommended approval with the findings as you see in the draft minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'd move on the staff recommendation for the rezoning. Were there any conditions? No, there was no conditions. Were any staff findings? This one?
With the findings presented, okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
All right, discussion. So this is apparently a pretty straightforward request to continue to use the property as it's, for the most part, as it's been.
Yes. The most significant thing I would say, impact for the landowner, is under residential zoning districts, we do not allow livestock of any sort. The landowner has a desire for a horse and is in a setting that would be conducive to that if the zoning allows for it. So that would be the most significant change that the landowner would experience.
And it was noted in the findings that this is not a spot rezone.
That's correct.
And can you just explain for the folks out there who are watching this why that may or may not be?
Generally speaking, spot rezones are not a good public policy. A spot rezone might be if we go into Green Lake, took one small residential lot by itself and rezoned it into a different zone so that we can allow a use that was otherwise not compatible with the area. So spot rezones generally are judged by relative size and by what's in proximity to them or what's adjacent to them. So if you want to view something as not a spot zone, you want a reasonable size piece of property generally and/or a combination of that and adjacent zoning that's compatible.
And in this case, you have both.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second to approve the request with the attached findings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes, and you have one more for us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The second request is a request of Scott and Rebecca Mueller. This request is, well, unique in a handful of facets. One of the unique things about it is that it's partly in the city limits of Regal, partly in the county. The real preponderance of the use lies within the county. This is a project basically right up on our county boundary with Stearns County, up on the County Line Road there. It is essentially a quarter section of land, the northern half of which is in the county and the southern half of which is in the city of Regal. The proposed use is for essentially a hospitality and events center focusing primarily on the reinstatement or the restarting of the historic Cornstalk Festival that had been held a number of years ago within the city limits of Regal. Has some history there related to the County Line Bar that used to operate on the east side of town there. And additionally, there would be hope for some more ongoing use beyond that music festival for gatherings of certain sort, weddings in particular, but would be open to gatherings of perhaps a corporate nature or a family reunion or something of that nature. I think a testimony probably to the community and the applicant having done their work for a significant proposal like this. There was no testimony received at the hearing or in writing in opposition. So it was an interesting thing to note about this proposal. The Planning Commission did work the conditions over a little bit and consider quite a bit how best to guide the proposed use. One of the things to note in the proposed conditions is number 8 in particular, that really guides the applicant in continued interaction with and working with our Sheriff's Department, Public Works Department, Public Health Department, Emergency Management Department, and Building Department for ongoing public safety, public health needs. So with the 18 attached conditions and the findings as you see in the draft minutes, the recommendation is for approval.
Mr. Chair, I would move for approval citing the staff findings and conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Discussion.
I guess I do have one thing, Steve.
Commissioner Anderson.
On number 15, Eric, you know, the only thing that concerned me a little bit when I was reading through this is that it's limited to only 2 music festivals. If it's a venue for that sort, I guess I just have concern with it's only 2. I mean, that was my only thought reading through this, was that why are we limiting it to just 2? That was my only question.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Anderson. A couple things to note. That was one that the Planning Commission talked over quite a bit. Original staff recommendation was for 1 as per the request. The applicant was fairly adamant that the desire was to keep the festival as a unique event. The Planning Commission thought that some added flexibility there would be good. What the 2 and 14 does is mirror the public health allowance for temporary camping. So the requirements for a permanent campground are significantly higher, such that the landowner really can't meet them well and has no desire to try to meet them. Then they are limited to their temporary camping for 2 events and 14 days. And the Planning Commission thought it would be good then to go ahead and mirror that, which would allow that temporary camping for those events if they wanted to do up to those 2 and 14 days.
Okay, sounds great.
So,
This, Mr. Chair, just kind of comment. I also looked at number 15, and I looked at it from the point of view of 14 days for a festival. Is that just for the camping part, or, I mean, how'd you ever come up with 14 days? Let's put it that way.
Thank you, Commissioner Berg. Again, as noted, the 14 days does not necessarily anticipate that they would have 14 days of festivals. It does cap it at there. Of course, we do want to be careful that we don't have an open-ended something.
Sure.
We remember that we're not regulating the landowner, but the use. And this certainly, someone could come in and buy up the festival or the rights to the festival and expand. So we want to have some guardrails on that. The 14, again, it's not a magical thing. It's just intended to mirror the limitations they would have on short-term or temporary camping.
Thank you.
Commissioner Imdag.
Thank you. Seems like number 15 is a popular number today. And you said it in your, sort of your introduction of the project. And I asked the county attorney, if you read that, how many events could one totally have in a year there? And in some ways, it says 2. But you said that daily events, like if they have a concert Friday night, but nobody stays overnight, would be allowed, or weddings, or say a food truck festival or something like that, those would be allowed. But kind of it's a little ambiguous. When you read it, it almost feels like in the end, after 2027, there would only be two events allowed.
Thank you,
That's not the
Commissioner.
spirit of that wasn't the spirit and intent of the discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Imdick. The hospitality venue and so items A and B there are listed as separate allowable parameters. So if someone has a wedding event, it doesn't count as a music festival under B. So it authorizes both and, not either or. Okay. So we would not, so imagine they had 3 different hospitality events. We would not say, look, you're 2 over. We would say you have not done yet a music festival as allowed under B. And so those would be discrete from each other.
Thank you. And to be clear, a lot of that would be dictated by our special permits that are needed if you have an event, right? Because they have to go to Chris Wenich for some permitting on a special event, or?
Weddings wouldn't necessarily need
weddings, but-
public health unless there was some sort of food service that needed.
So there's plenty of guardrails there, and we're not limiting them to 2 events a year.
No, we are not.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Well, thank you for asking my question. Because that's kind of where I was going to be landing on as well. Thank you for that. Any other questions for Eric? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the, is this a conditional use permit?
It is.
Okay. approve the conditional use permit with the findings and conditions. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes, and that was a lot easier to do than to say. Thank you. All right. Eric, thank you very much. At this time, then, we will take a brief 5-minute recess.
doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
The Candiota County Board of Commissioners is back from recess, and now we will hear from HHS Director Caroline Kahn in relation to Prime West Health County Care Coordination. Caroline, good morning.
Good morning. As you mentioned, Chair Gardner, I'm Caroline Kahn. I have the opportunity to serve as the Health and Human Services Director for Candy, Ojai County. This morning, I have Emily Roaring with Prime West Health with me as a co-presenter for our conversation related to Prime West Health County Care Coordination and what that future will look like for Candy, Ojai County. I don't have it on my screen here, but I'll have you move forward for me. I'm going to let Emily introduce herself and a little bit of the history and background as to how we got to today.
Emily, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Like Caroline said, I'm Emily Roaring. I'm the Provider Services Manager with Prime West Health. Glad to be here. So just a little history and background here with Prime West Health in Candy, Ojai County. In 2019, Candy, Ojai signed an intent to join Prime West Health. So in 2022, there were 11 counties that joined Prime West Health's board. The 2022 procurement did exclude and limit county-based purchasing. So that did not allow county-based purchasing to have a single plan. In 2021, 2021, Candy, Ojai County did give notice to Blue Cross Blue Shield for termination of their care coordination agreement. They cited staff capacity reasons for termination and care coordinators absorbed into other roles within other departments at Candy, Ojai County. In 2022, Prime West Health and other county-based purchasing entities did file a lawsuit against DHS to override that county-based purchasing could be a single plan entity for if the counties did elect for that. We did win that. In 2025, DHS did affirm that we were going to be the single plan. And in 2026, we were the Families and Children single plan entity. So now we are gearing up here in 2027 for the rest of our healthcare programs, with the exception of Minnesota Care, to be single plan. All right. So just a little bit on case management here, our guiding principles. Embedding county-based purchasing and case management within the county strengthens community connections, improves service coordination, and helps ensure residents receive timely, person-centered support close to home. This improves health outcomes, face-to-face support rather than relying solely on remote services, right? So when we embed case management in the county, we get that face-to-face support rather than some of those remote services at our home office in Alexandria. Coordination of care. This helps reduce duplication of services. We are working directly with Candy, Ojai County to make sure that all efforts are centered and we are not duplicating any services. Member engagement. We're seeing higher opt-in rates with members that are working with individuals in their counties. Local staff can respond more quickly to emerging needs and those changing community conditions. County and Prime West alignment, right? We're working together, we're creating strong working relationships with clear roles, shared data, and joint accountability for those outcomes. And financial sustainability. We've shown with other counties that we've worked with that this can be a financial sustainable option for Candy, Ojai County. All right, so the current landscape here at Candy, Ojai County, it is an external case management model. There's a little bit, it's a little blended with some of our Prime West members being managed within the county, but most being managed externally. We do see an unable to reach and refuse member rates high with these members. We see with this, so without effective case management, we do see increased ER visits and hospitalizations. Disengaged members, they default to that crisis level care. We see expensive and traumatic intervention points, and it creates burden on health systems. When we do see effective case management, and you know it works how how things should. These individuals work with care managers. They get the care that they need. We don't see that fatigue on families, law enforcement, and emergency systems. And it really, those systems don't have to absorb the cost. I'll turn it over.
Yeah. All right. So as Emily mentioned, and I wanted Emily to kind of speak to that a little bit because as Prime West partnerships, Candy Ojai County is unique in the 24-member counties of Prime West, as we are the only county that is not currently engaged in doing the full Prime West care coordination case management. There is a portion of case management that we do with our elderly waiver population, but as we move forward into 2027, as mentioned, we do need to make a decision as to if we will be accepting the responsibility for the remaining MSHO, MSC Plus, and SNBC clientele for single plan options, or if we will be defaulting to remain that responsibility to Prime West. So if we move forward, I want to talk a little bit about Candy Ojai County's aging population. As we talked a little bit earlier, Commissioner Berg, you brought that up. We are becoming an older population. Actually, we had the opportunity a few weeks ago to have the long-range planning team from the state of Minnesota join us in our community to talk to our residents. And one thing that they shared with me that really stood out is in a mere 4 years, Minnesota's demographics are going to permanently shift. And we're not talking about that much, but in 2030, Minnesota as a whole is going to shift to having more individuals that are 65 and older than we do school age. And that's going to be a permanent demographic shift. And Candy Ojai County is not going to be immune to that. If you look at our data, we are going to have 21.1% of residents 65 plus, and that's compared to our 18.3 statewide. We're going to have a growth in our 85 plus population by 16% in 2035, and a net growth of 6.8% in 2035, and that 65 plus by 2035. So we're going to continue to be a growing aging population here in Candy Ojai County, and the population that's served by these programs served by Prime West is a part of that. So I do think that's important that we talk about that, because the decisions that we make today will impact the residents today as well as growing into the future. So if we want to keep moving. So as I mentioned, right now, we need to make the decision of option A. Will Candy Ojai County accept the responsibility to lead case management on behalf of Prime West within the county and join the 23 other member counties of Prime West in that same process? Or will we default the case management responsibility back to Prime West, and then they will build their own team locally to assume that responsibility? This will impact approximately, I'm going to say that this is tentative data because every month it changes. So at the time that this data was pulled, it was 819 members transitioning to Prime West effective January 27. That's a give or take number because every month that number will fluctuate, but it is around ballpark of the number of individuals that responsibility would need to impact. So I want to talk a little bit about what would option A look like, because option B would be defaulting back to Prime West, and they would take care of that. So what would that look like in Candy Ojai County if we were to take that responsibility on? We would be, we're going to keep going individually because I walked through each one. So we would need to build capacity, and that would include hiring a supervisor, recruiting and hiring care coordinators, as well as working with Prime West to provide the appropriate training. It's no secret that 27 is going to come here really quickly. I mean, I don't know how we got to August of 26 this quickly because I'm still in 24 some days. But we need to really develop a robust plan and begin that recruitment and strategy and get staff onboarded quickly in order to maintain and be prepared for 27. I am grateful for the partnership that we've had with Prime West up until this point and the support that we've had in evaluating what this could look like and preparing for the possibility. We would have to discuss what that would look like in bringing in some seniors first. There are some individuals being supported through, like Emily mentioned, the remote case management at this point that we're seeing opt-out rates or less engagement that we could start to serve immediately if we did hire individuals to serve them. So we could start seeing some of that revenue generation sooner rather than later and not have to just wait until the magical 27 timeframe for revenue to begin generating. We'd have to begin to align some of our systems and integrate a more robust billing process. The more members we have, the more we need to bill. Candy Ojai County does bill and generate revenue on behalf, so not everything we do is just a taxpayer burden. I think that's surprising to some individuals that we actually make money in some of our services, and this is one of them. So we would need to hire an accounting specialist to help with that. We'd also have to work with our IT system to talk about what would our batch billing system process look like? How would we get our IT systems prepared and updated? Where would these individuals sit and how would that look like? So we've gone through some of those internal conversations with our leadership team internally to look at that. But those would be some of those other pieces that we'd walk through. And then how would we scale and sustain this to ensure that we'd have a sustainable process moving forward? You know, when we had the opportunity to discuss this at a work session earlier with the board, we talked a lot about where would this process sit. And I want to own that discussion did talk a lot about possibly putting this within our public health portion of our work. Today, I am going to recommend that we put this within our human services portion of our work for a few strategic reasons. Some of those, it prevents duplication of our systems. Some of the systems in which the care coordinators would be working don't exist in public health, and right now, to rebuild those within the public health side of our work simply would be additional burden and delay. The coordination within our human services side already exists for seamless coordination. We also have the opportunity for those care coordinators to still physically exist within our public health space. I know one area of concern during that work session period was where would these people go? Where obviously we talk a lot about space capacity. We do have the footprint space within public health for them to sit, and having them within our human services side actually is financially beneficial to the county because human services rents space from the county, public health does not. So that becomes a revenue generation opportunity for the county that also helps us recapture some additional federal reimbursement possibilities as well. So we would then becoming our own renters for maximizing that. As well as human services has the ability to draw down on federal reimbursement for things such as benefits. Public health does not. So we have the ability to draw down additional reimbursement for some of those fringe costs of having employees. So at a time that we're facing right now, it strategically makes more sense financially to look at placing this type of a program within that side of our work, just due to the financial offsets that we could maximize within our human services. So as we look at staffing design, population model of care for Prime West work. We've talked with Prime West a lot as regional directors and as individual conversations about if we move forward with a skilled nursing only case management plan, or if you blend that skilled nursing along with other managed care plans. And right now, kind of that full continuum plan is really more looking, so you're with that individual and you're not moving care coordinators just because of your location. Say you go into a skilled nursing facility and then you transition back home, really staying with the individual versus changing care coordinators based off of residence is that strategy that Prime West is really encouraging counties to look at, and it does actually make a lot of sense. So if you're looking at that, you're looking at trying to aim for that 63-to-1, so each case manager holding about 63 cases individually. If we're aiming for that target, we are looking at bringing in a team as proposed in there. And with that, we have 2 case managers that are currently sorry, I don't have it on my screen right here, and I didn't wear my glasses. We have 2 team members that are currently carrying some Prime West responsibilities that would have expressed interest in moving over to this and only doing Prime West. So we'd like to honor that ability and maximize, like, we have people that are already trained in this work. But that does leave a void within our existing waiver case management team that we would have to also fulfill. So we'd have to replace some of that case capacity within our CADI case management, as well as grow some case manager capacity in our Prime West Care Coordination. And then I'm going to talk a little bit here briefly, as you see under Substance Use Prevention Specialist. Once we get to that slide, I'll get a little deeper into that. But in moving here, we'd have that accounting technician as a full-time individual. We'd need a case aide to help support this team as a full-time individual. We are looking at suggesting the desire to add on some part-time individuals. We are at a time where people are asking us for part-time positions. It strategically makes sense to meet the growing need of individuals that want to step back from full-time work but aren't quite ready to retire. So there seems to be a need for that and a desire in the workforce. So looking at bringing that in as a strategy to help offset some and balance our workforce strategy. So if you want to move forward. So some additional opportunities to kind of build on that public health integration that we all talked so deeply about it during our work session. As Forrest mentioned earlier, we are seeing a growing trend within our older adult population as it relates to opioid concerns. So one of the discussions that our public health manager brought forward was the potential to have our substance use prevention specialists that we've been eyeing as the possibility to bring onto our team, potentially meet with every member that joins care coordination in that 65 and older as a prevention strategy to talk about opioid use and prevention and excuse me, and voluntarily have that opportunity to do one-on-one consults with individuals as a prevention strategy for opioid use and or medication management. And I brought that to Prime West, and Emily said, actually, that's something that we've been trying to strategically work with counties over the future to bring in. And so something that we could look at, both being funded by our current grant of cannabis and substance use prevention and target some additional substance use grants that we could go after to help fund that position overall as we look at the financial viability of reimbursement for that type of a role. But hopefully that would help kind of curb some of that overall increase.
Just a quick question. Would you want to finish your presentation and then take questions?
Whichever you would like to do. I'm fine.
Oh, okay, because we're going through it pretty fast.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, taking a question? Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to go back to the slide about the staff design social services.
Yeah.
And, yeah, you pulled it up. Thank you. Maybe I missed something. Before we were talking about adding 7 new staff, right?
So a total of, yep.
Okay, so we're still just adding 7 staff, even though you're listing 10 positions? Is that what you're listing there?
So you should see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full-time case managers, and then you have 3 part-time, and then the replacement of the existing staff that we already have. So they're not new positions?
Okay. And
So nothing changed from that
7.
proposed 7?
No, they're just the part-time, I added those together to be.
7 FTEs.
And also, I don't think you mentioned a supervisor, a new supervisor then for that group?
It would be a supervisor as
And
well.
that would be in addition to the 7, or is that part of the 7?
It would be an addition, yep. So I'll have that towards the end.
So then we're up to 8 now.
Yep, if we get to the last slide, it'll kind of lay it out a little bit further.
I'll just hold these and we go back to this.
Yep.
Okay, yes.
All right, here is where, so we'd have 7 care coordinators, a case aide, an accounting technician, and a supervisor. And so this, I want to show, I'm going to show you 2 slides, one that has a worst case scenario and one that has a best case scenario. When we walked through our work session, we gave you a portfolio that looked at like our traditional staffing model where based off of our traditional, like this is what people take percentage-wise for benefits and fringe. That's what we proposed, was we don't know exactly who's going to take what, and so we usually use a pro forma model based of percentage. And so when I sat down to bring forward to you today, I also wanted to show you what would be the worst case if everybody took the highest cost fringe package that Candy Ojai County offers, and a higher step option. So that's what you see before you today, is if everybody came in at the highest step possible to offer, as well as the highest benefit package that Candy Ojai County offers for those positions that listed here. This is what that revenue potential and cost potential breakdown would look like.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner?
Thank you. Yeah, so I think I'm understanding, but I just want to be clear. So these two different models you're showing us are based on choices that the
employee could select.
The employee or the people that we're going to be managing, the cases that we're going to be managing?
No, the employee. So when we hire someone and they select a certain health
Oh,
plan,
I
there's
got
a
it.
different
I got it.
cost in
Okay, now I
our
get it.
package.
I was thinking about it was.
Yep. No. So our
Thank
per
you
member
for
per month revenue should remain within same target based off of the revenue targets. So the revenue that we bill towards to Prime West should stay in that same target range, but our cost for the employee will adjust based off of what their package of fringe, or their benefit package is. So I did think it was prudent, especially as a time like this that we're in today, to show you a worst case scenario. Because if health insurance is no secret in the world, that those are high costs that every employer is talking about. So I thought it would be prudent to show you, if everybody selected the highest cost package and we paid the highest amount that our typical amount of step goes towards, and include the two staff that we know what their benefit package and their wage cost is built into this pro forma, this is what that would look like as a revenue potential. And then if.
Go ahead.
Okay, if you go to the next
I don't
one.
want to, you're just talking so fast. I
Okay,
can't-
I'm sorry.
I don't mean to interrupt you. No, keep going.
Oh,
I'm
I was just
sorry.
going to show you, the next one is if we kept that same traditional, like, percentage model. So like, we look at our 160 staff that we have, and we build off the percentage, this many take this type of a plan, and this many take this type of a plan. And then Carol comes up with this beautiful percentage of this is what that typically costs us. Thank God for Carol. That's where we come in with this margin. So I wanted to kind of show you somewhere in that target range is where we would expect to be. Both are not negative, so that's a positive for Candy Ojai County. But I did think it was only fair to be completely transparent with you as the board and Candy Ojai County residents as to what that would potentially look like.
Commissioner Chair.
Commissioner Imdahl?
Thank you. So on the top model, that reflects the health insurance option that the two people that would be transferring over that are currently working here would transfer over?
They're included as they are in both models. Those are fixed costs that we already know. So that I wouldn't have changed them. They're included as they sit in both models because they're fixed. So anybody else would be the other individuals on that team.
But are they in the higher cost insurance option or in the standard one, the average one?
I don't think it would be fair to say what they are since they're existing staff. But
Okay, but if it is probably not fair to say that, but if they were in the higher one, wouldn't it be safe to say that anybody coming in would want to have the insurance that they have?
the same insurance is available to any potential employee and existing employee. So like every employee is offered the same option through HR and is allowed to select whatever insurance plans that we have. It's just whatever is selected by the employee does have a different cost to the employer. So am I? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, you're making
right.
sense. So if,
So worst case
so if
scenario,
everyone.
they all take the highest plan.
Yep.
That's where we get to that worst case scenario. Not every employee does. And so when we run a different scenario, like the 230 or the 450, that 450 is if we get some employees that kind of go across the board, maybe some don't take it, maybe some take the lower plan, mid plan. So we kind of mixed things in, that's where we get that 450. We say we take all the high plan, more cost to the employer, that's where we come up with that 230. It's that whole fringe benefits.
Based on our experience, I mean, these are large differences.
Yep.
And based on our experience, do we have an idea?
That would be more where we would come in at that 450 because that is based off of our experience. That's based off of the percentage of what we average. So
We want, and if I may.
You may.
When Caroline and I were meeting on this and discussing, I said, you just never know what the employee, and you never know what a life event an employee might have, that there would then go in and choose the benefits, insurance, different plans like that. And so I wanted to give the worst case scenario, because this number, that 450, is a nice number for the board to see for revenue based off these services we will be providing. But that worst case scenario should play in. Now, is that gonna come to fruition? Probably not. That is that worst case scenario. And I'm looking at Carol's, reassurance. Looking at, our finance staff over there, that's really the worst case scenario. Is that gonna happen? Slim chance, but it could. And so I just wanted to show that revenue amount because the 450 is such a good dollar amount.
So given that revenue amount, and I see the next slide is questions,
Yep.
Given that revenue amount, does that change? So I'm looking down at the bottom there at 7 care coordinators, a case, an accounting technician and supervisor. I'm seeing 10, but earlier we were talking about 7. Are
7
some
was
of
the
these
care
part-time
coordinators.
positions?
7 care coordinators, and then the support staff would be on top of that.
So 10 FTEs.
10 FTEs is what it would take to take this on at Candy, Ojai County, correct?
But 2 months ago, I thought it was 7 that was presented.
And I think and that might have been the misunderstanding and maybe misclarification that it was 7 care coordinators to take on the amount of work. Then we need that support supervisor, and then the case aide and accounting technician. And that's really in 2019, what prevented Candy, Ojai County from maintaining this work within the county at that time was because of the staffing, this is growth of staffing FTEs within the county. And in 2019, that was what was cited to Blue Cross Blue Shield as to why we weren't gonna maintain keeping that care coordination within the county at that time. Had the pro forma been run differently, Blue Cross Blue Shield doesn't give us the same rate reimbursement that Prime West does as county-based purchasing. We get an enhanced rate because of our partnership with Prime West. So financially, this makes sense on paper, even with the 10 FTE costs as we're describing here. So the 7 is what would be needed in order to carry the caseloads of the members coming on to care coordination. We would then need the supervision and the support staff in order to support those 7 care coordinators. So I apologize if I wasn't clear.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
And the amount that we would get from Prime West remains the same whether we have 8 FTEs or 12 FTEs?
No, because every FTE we have, we get additional revenue on top of that. So every FTE we have, we can anticipate, based off of their member modeling, it's about $192,000 and some change per FTE revenue. That every FTE can generate about $70,000 worth of revenue, give or take, if we're maximizing performance, based off of what they gave us per their member modeling from other counties of similar size. So they gave us a high county, a low county, and kind of in between of what to expect, and that was about $192,000. It does not cost us $192,000 to employ an employee here at Candy, Ojai County.
But it seemed like that number was higher at the presentation 2 months ago than what we're seeing here today.
The number for
From
the
Prime
revenue?
West. Yeah.
Nope.
I think it's fairly comparable. We were talking
The revenue shouldn't have adjusted. Well,
Mr. Chair, can I just?
Commissioner Burke.
Thank you. I just wanted to share my same understanding.
Yep.
My understanding before when it was presented, there was 5 full-time workers and 2 part-times to equal 7. And now you got, 10 people. I'm all for us doing the case management, but I really want to look from a taxpayer's point of view, both for Prime West and us, that we, to get our revenue, it says, potential revenue. I'm worried about the real world revenue. And so I would like to hear more. We figured out to some degree, you know, our expenses, and you've dug into that pretty good, but the revenue, when you base the ratios and stuff, what's typical going through forward? And the revenue is based on, would you explain how the revenue is achieved? I mean, for example, you have to account for hours or quarter or half hours time for cases. So would you tell me how the revenue comes about?
You bet. So those care coordinators and that case aid, there's a rate for each 15-minute increment that they spend with that individual or they're spent on that individual that can be billed directly back to Prime West. So 15-minute increments when you're working on billable services, you know, there's numerous different types, but if you can trace that back to helping that member achieve their goals and working with them, that's a billable service back to Prime West.
How do these numbers compare to some of the other counties?
Yeah, we developed these models with Candy, Ohio County, and this is based on real-time data. So very similar size.
But now smaller though, they don't have a supervisor to fund and so forth too, right?
You know, I can't speak to that.
It varies, what I'm trying to say, yeah, so.
I would say that there's always a supervisor, you know, with, but I can't speak to exactly what another county does.
Because it would vary on the members.
Sure.
Of who are receiving these services. And then we have to go off the state requirement or recommendation on how many
Recommendation, not
cases an
requirement, yeah.
employee can use. And where we, you know, double-edged sword here, regional hub, that we do have individuals on our services because of,
Yep.
you know, our population. And so our numbers are higher than our surrounding counties. So when you look at the counties that joined Prime West during that time, it was an easier adjustment. Some chose to add staff during that time, some chose to add staff overtime, where we chose to not take the service on, and then here we are. So if we are going to do this, we're going to have to add staff based off the cases that each employee now will have. Going back, I think where there is that confusion based off that work session was we were looking more so at that public health option, and we were looking at that human services. That human services model did have less staff than what you're seeing today. These are more finalized numbers with the part-times, the case aid. This would be the final number that you are seeing though today.
There is one, and as I was pulling up, we didn't have that one on the piece, but after that July 13th, we've had a director's meeting with Prime West specifically talking about SNBC. And that is where Emily and I had talked, and then I had talked with Kelsey, and financially, since we were investing in the supervisor, it did not financially not make sense to also begin assuming responsibility and adding an FTE to bring that in, because it expands our ability to cover the cost of that supervisor. So that was the additional FTE added in for that piece. So in looking at that, that was an additional. So we could look at saying, nope, we're not going to take on SNBC, but financially, it does make sense because of that same reimbursement structure, since we're already investing in the capacity of the supervisor. So I apologize, that was one thing we did not talk about at the work session that did change based off of our discussions with Prime West afterwards, was the ability to start assuming some of that responsibility for that SNBC population as well. So that could be a discussion to say, we don't want to take on SNBC, and then Prime West will take that on. Financially, it helps us spread that cost of that supervisor a little bit greater. So we did build that in after discussion with Administrator Baker into this pro forma. So that would just remove a 70,000.
Can you tell us what SNBC is again?
It's our special needs disabled plan. So we were talking mainly about seniors previously. Sorry, we're mainly talking about seniors previously. That's our disabled population.
Commissioner Dale Anderson.
Well, I guess you can cut this in pieces any way you want, but the profit's going to go down if you cut pieces out of this. But the money and the people that you have on the slide the 10 FTEs, that's what it's gonna take to run this program, from experience from Prime West and through us. So I mean, it really goes back to, you just look at what the margin number is, and that's 455,000 on a normal world. On a really crazy world, it would be that lower number, but that's a normal world number. I think we should be pretty content with that. That's pretty good revenue, pretty good margins, even if the FTEs are 10 people. I mean, it's still based on that is our margin. at the end of
And
the
I'm going to piggyback off of that just a little bit. The numbers, this cash flows either way, correct? This is, you know.
According to
this
the
is-
modeling, correct.
Yeah, according to the modeling, which we assume through your experience and through our fiscal department, they know what they're talking about. So we know that it should fall somewhere in between that. But this is about more than that. This is about providing proper service delivery to our senior populations within Candy-Ojai County by having that hands-on, by having that familiarity, as opposed to somebody working out of a remote office in Alexandria where you don't get to know your people. And that's the human part of this that I think makes this so attractive, at least to me. Commissioner?
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. However, I think it's prudent for us to say, okay, what happens, because you emphasize this is the model, according to the modeling. If the modeling isn't correct, or if it changes after a while, suddenly we're looking at levy dollars, you know, that's a long ways away from where this is, and I hope we never get there. But can we talk a little bit about the difference between, so let's, Commissioner Dale Anderson's more positive than I that the 455 is where we're gonna land, but I hope we do. What happens to those margins? If it's in public health, it goes, it's the general fund revenue. If it stays in human services, it's different, right?
Correct. So Human Services runs in Fund 11 and Public Health runs in Fund 1. So in Fund 11, it would just sit in the Human Services General Fund, which is still a county general fund. An attractive part to me is that's where a lot of our county cost shifts are coming. So it would help kind of offset some of our future potential cost shifts for SNAP and LTSS. Or you could always take from the general fund and move back over. It's really your dollars either way. But the ability within Fund 11, like I had mentioned earlier, is we have the ability to then maximize our reimbursement from federal participation for those fringe costs that we would not be able to do if it's in public health. So the cost of employee benefits run through our different reports, and we do receive some reimbursement from the federal government for the cost of having human services employees. So we'll be able to get small amounts of dollars back over time, even if those are limiting. Some, 25 cents is better than no cents per dollar back, even if that participation is decreasing as we're expecting. It's still better than no reimbursement if it sits on the other side. So same as the rent, we can still have them co-locate in public health where we have the space available, but then human services will be able to rent that space. Our rental cost to the county is not robust by any means, but it is still some cost coming back to the county that does then receive some reimbursement participation as well.
So some of the questions I'm asking really are going to bleed over to our budget discussion.
I'm prepared.
I think this is no-brainer. I hope it ends up at the higher number that we're talking about, or closer to that higher number, and that we get better care for the clients, because it's locally based rather than, as you say, from some remote office in perhaps Alexandria or Morris or wherever. So I'm going to support this, and I would move that it's an action item, correct?
It is.
And I would move that we enter into this contract with Prime West.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second it.
Thank you. And any further discussion? So all of this is contained, alluding to the work session. All of this is modeled into your proposed 27 budget, yes?
It was added as an inclusion, and I believe you did, we were able to send it back, and I think that we were able to add it into what you'll be seeing later today.
Okay, very good.
So.
That's, I
If not, we'll make sure that it's modeled
I assumed
in,
you wouldn't go through all
but-
this and not plan for it and within
Well,
the
it is
budget.
a gamble of what you're going to say. So I think if it's not, we'll make sure to get it back to you as a potential modeling piece. The expenses should be met. I think one thing that you commissioners can consider is if we want to keep this as a separate line item so we can keep a nice, clear target on it. I think a benefit of having that clear supervision is we're going to have somebody clearly monitoring this and keeping the accountability for the work in the ways that we expect as well. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I just want to state, yes, I'm supportive of us doing case management. As we all recall, just a few years ago, we were doing case management for Blue Cross Blue Shield, which was doing this. But I'm sure there's not exactly apples and oranges type of case management. And we went away from that because we didn't want to just chase the dollars to make revenue, but we want to have revenue to cover good services, and that's what we're looking for. And I think we're heading in the right direction, but this was all new information, or big change of the information, let's put it, than I was informed of before. So I'm supportive going forward with this, so thank you. Oh, the other question I had would be then, you want to start hiring in October, and are there's no revenue?
No, so if the work plan would say that we would hire this post for the supervisor immediately upon approval, and once that person is in place, then we would start looking at those care coordinators. We would like to post at the latest of October 3rd in order to have them on board, because it takes a while to get somebody posted, hired, interviewed, then they have usually a time frame in which they have a notice. So then in order for time for Prime West and us to work together, for them to either go to ALEC or for Prime West to come here, so we can have that strong training to then get people onboarded and ready for January.
Thank you, no, I understand that.
So.
But you would have room for all of that within the 26 budget.
We would have room within our reserves.
Yeah. Yes.
So we did not budget for that.
Depending upon timing.
Depending upon timing, correct. And we could build some revenue within, if we took some people
There
on.
will be a lag then between when we start spending money and we start, getting the revenue in, and it could be significant, really, when you think about the number of employees that you have to, it's not gonna be easy, I don't think, in this market to get them on board fast. And then I just wanna say to your point about the line item, I would prefer a line item so we have a measurement, so we can measure success a year down the road.
Okay. So.
Anyone else? Any other thoughts, comments? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the county care coordination agreement with Prime West, correct?
Assuming responsibility for county
Assuming responsibility.
or care coordination on behalf of Prime
Make
West.
sure I get that said right, because I can't see worth a darn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. All right, thank you very much, and we look forward to continuing to partner with Prime West. And I think, we have the new sign up now? Yeah? New signage, new logo? We did? I forgot to look this morning. All right. Well, thank you so much. At this time, then, do we have any administrative updates? Okay. Calendar and committee reports. Members, do you have anything that you want to report on? I know we were out at the fair and had our booth out there, and that seemed to go over okay. And then we just have a couple of items. We are looking at another budget work session on the 1st, after the board meeting. And then, of course, the AMC Fall Policy Conference is in Bemidji this year, and I believe everybody's attending as well. So, anything else for the good of the order? No? Okay, then we will adjourn the meeting of the Candido County Board of Commissioners. And we do have a county board work session commencing shortly. Thank you, everybody.